To pay off their debts, your parents sold you overnight to a wealthy heiress suffering from bipolar disorder and severe noise sensitivity. Xingyao leans back against her chair, her deep eyes staring intently at you, as if she's calculating something. She raises an eyebrow, her tone completely flat. Pack up your room? Which room? You freeze completely. Next door. My guest room, you say. No need to go back there, she cuts in. Xingyao stands up, her long legs striding over until she's right in front of you. The very next second, she reaches out, grabs you by the shoulders, and spins you completely around, forcing you to face the black double doors on the other side of the hallway. That is her master bedroom. Starting today, your things are moving in there. She points at the doors that symbolize the ultimate forbidden zone of the Xing estate, her tone as casual as if remarking on the nice weather. Why? You instantly panic. We literally live next door to each other. It's just one wall away. If anything happens, I can come over anytime. This is just absurd. That's the master bedroom. What does it make you? A mere collateral for a debt, moving in there. A bed-warming boy toy? Despite your loud protests, Xingyao looks completely unapologetic. Her eyes even flash a hint of judgment, silently scolding you for being so unreasonable. Next door? That's way too far. You stare at her, completely baffled. The two doors aren't even 3 meters apart. How is that far? What if I have an episode in the middle of the night? What if my head is splitting? Xingyao raises a single finger, waving it right in front of your face. She starts spouting absolute nonsense with a deadpan face. You have to get up from next door. Put on your shoes, open your door, run over here, and then push my doors open. That entire process takes at least 15 seconds. She takes a step closer, her tall figure completely overshadowing you. Moog, you have any idea how much it hurts when my episodes hit? Every single second feels like death by 1,000 cuts. Even a 5-second delay. She lets out a cold laugh, tapping her fingertip lightly against your forehead, is more than enough to leave me dying of pain. You open your mouth, but find yourself completely speechless. What kind of twisted, absurd logic is that? Just to save those 15 seconds, you have to throw yourself to the wolves? But, no buts. Xingyao completely loses her patience. She raises her hand and snaps her fingers. The butler on standby immediately steps up with 2 maids, and they shove the door to your guest room wide open. Move it. Xingyao spits out the cold command. As a result, the whole moving process is outrageously fast. In less than 10 minutes, every single thing you own is transferred into that master bedroom, surrounded by an overwhelming feminine scent. Forced to stand there on the master bedroom carpet, you are completely stiff. It's freezing cold. The air is thick with a scent that belongs exclusively to Xingyao, dominating absolutely every inch of the space. Yet, at this very moment, cutting through this suffocating, icy-toned room, there is suddenly a jarring clash of color. On that massive black bed, big enough to sleep 3 people, sat a striking blue checkered pillow. On the nightstand, a jade green medicine jar had appeared. Next to it were a few ancient Chinese medical books, and a water cup with a cartoon bear printed on it. Black and blue, cold and soft. This intense visual contrast felt completely out of place, yet strangely intimate. It looked just like a little sheep stumbling into a wolf's den, forcefully dragged back to the lair by a she-wolf. Not bad. Xingyao looked around the room, her gaze lingering on that blue checkered pillow for 2 seconds. A hint of satisfaction flashed in her eyes. She turned around, looking right at your flustered self. What are you just standing there for? Go take a shower. She looked back, her dark eyes sweeping over you with clear intent. Wash up nicely. Don't bring that nervous sweat of yours into my bed. Tonight, I'm going to get a good night's sleep. The bathroom door clicked shut, and the sound of running water started. You stood all alone in front of that massive black bed, staring down at your pitiful little blue checkered pillow. Wanting to cry but having no tears left. You finally understood. So much for making treatment easier, or saving 15 seconds. That was clearly just an excuse to move in together. Your nights now completely belong to this crazy woman. The night grew deep. Only a dim, warm lamp was left on in the master bedroom. Fresh out of the shower, you stood awkwardly in front of that enormous bed. You spent a long time hyping yourself up. The bed was huge. Xingyao was already lying there, leaning against the headboard, flipping through an English book. Under the soft light, she lost that sharp, intimidating edge she had during the day. Looking much more relaxed and cozy. What are you just standing there for? Xingyao didn't even look up, her voice casual. Do I need to formally invite you into bed? You gulped nervously. You dragged your feet and slowly climbed in, but you didn't dare scoot toward the middle. Instead, like a gecko, you clung tightly to the very edge of the mattress. Half your body practically dangling off. Between the two of you, there was a massive invisible wall you had drawn, gripping the edge of the blanket. Your voice was tight. Miss Xing, I'm a really bad sleeper. I tend to kick the blankets off at night, and I grind my teeth. It's probably better if I just stay over here on the edge. Xingyao paused her flipping. She slowly closed the book, turned on her side, and propped her head up with one hand, looking at you with total amusement. A bad sleeper, huh? She raised an eyebrow, a playful glint in her eyes. When I fell asleep in the study a few days ago, you seemed pretty well behaved to me. Your face flushed red, and you desperately made up a lie on the spot. That was during the day. At night, I sleepwalk and throw punches. Xingyao let out a low chuckle, her laugh filled with the teasing confidence of someone who saw right through you. Sure you do. She didn't bother calling your bluff. Instead, she just casually reached over and clicked off the bedside lamp. Click. The world instantly plunged into pitch black darkness. You breathed a sigh of relief, thinking you'd finally survive this ordeal. But right at that moment, in the dark, the faint rustle of fabric echoed through the silence. Immediately after, a burning hot, powerful arm reached out without warning, grabbing your waist with pinpoint accuracy. The next second, Xingyao pulled her arm back, dragging you in the blanket straight back from the edge of the bed. Miss Xing, what are you doing? You struggled in a panic. You pressed your hands against her, trying to push her away. Don't move. Xingyao's voice was right at your ear, deep, husky, and laced with a hint of sleepiness. She gave you absolutely no chance to escape. Like a bossy octopus, she used her arms and legs to lock you down instantly in one smooth, fluid motion. One long leg pinned both of yours down, while one arm clamped tightly around your waist. Her other hand slipped under the back of your neck, acting as your pillow. Pressed perfectly together, not a single gap between you. You were completely embedded in her embrace, forced to be her personal body pillow. Xingyao, I can't breathe like this. Hearing this, Xingyao didn't let go. Instead, she doubled down, lowering her head. She buried her face deep into the crook of your neck, like an addict. Greedily breathing in your faint scent. Feeling you still squirming, Xingyao tightened her grip, and whispered a dark threat right by your ear. Keep moving. And I'll throw you to the wolves in the back mountains. Your whole body stiffened. You didn't dare move another inch. Because you really knew just how fiercely those Tibetan mastiffs in the back mountains of the Xing estate could bark. With the person in her arms finally behaving, Xingyao smiled in satisfaction. Yet the way she held you carried a trace of careful tenderness, like a fierce dragon guarding its stolen jewel. Pressed against your body heat, the anxiety that had tortured her for over 20 years miraculously faded away in this very moment. Good night, Moog, she murmured into the darkness. Her breathing soon grew long and steady. And you were forced to play human body pillow all night long, listening to the steady heartbeat behind you. You cried silent tears in your heart. Is this supposed to be treatment? This is clearly just treating you like a giant plush doll. That night's sleep was incredibly heavy and incredibly exhausting. In your dreams, you were like a tiny boat in the ocean, tightly swallowed up by the warm but heavy seawater, with nowhere to run. To pay off their debts, your parents sold you overnight to a young heiress suffering from bipolar disorder and severe sound sensitivity. At 7 a.m., your biological clock woke you up right on time. The very first feeling as your consciousness returned was the heat, and immediately following that was a suffocating sense of being bound, like you were wrapped up by a giant python. Uncomfortable and groggy, you tried to roll over, only to find that you couldn't move at all. You struggled to open your heavy eyelids, and the first thing you see is an expanse of snow-white skin. Right after that, the memories of last night come rushing back like a tidal wave. Being forcefully dragged onto the bed, locked tightly in her arms, and treated like a human body pillow. You snap wide awake, instinctively trying to shrink back. But as you move, you realize with absolute horror just how much of a death wish your current position is. Last night, you were the one being unilaterally pinned down. But right now, you're clinging to Xingyao with all four limbs, just like a koala. One leg is boldly thrown across her waist, your hands are wrapped tightly around her neck, and your cheek is pressed right against her chest. How is this being forced? You've basically thrown yourself at her. You are so dead. You groan inwardly, breaking out in a cold sweat. Last night you warned her you thrash around in your sleep, and now you're tangled around her like an octopus. This clean freak psychopath finds out, is she going to throw you right off the bed? While she's still asleep, you need to sneak away, right now. Holding your breath, you try to pull back, moving impossibly slow. 2 centimeters, just as you carefully lift your head, trying to check if you woke her up, your gaze crashes without warning into a pair of blood-red, bottomless eyes. Boom. It feels like a firework just went off inside your brain. Xingyao is awake. Actually, to be precise, she's been awake this whole time. Leaning against the headboard, she has one hand resting behind her head, while the other is still draped over your waist. There isn't a trace of sleepiness in those narrow eyes. Instead, they shine with a terrifyingly sharp clarity. She's just quietly, unblinkingly staring right at you. God knows how long she's been watching. 1 minute? An hour? In the morning light, her deep gaze makes it feel like she's sizing up prey caught in her web. Time seems to freeze. You lie stiffly against her chest. Your face is barely a few centimeters apart, breaths mingling. Extreme awkwardness and panic send your mind racing. What is she looking at? Is she pissed that you crossed the line? Or maybe, a sudden thought hits you, and you instinctively raise your hand, frantically wiping the corner of your mouth. Oh no, no, no. You were sleeping so deeply just now, with your face buried in her chest. Don't tell me, did you drool on her? This is the notoriously germophobic princess of the Beijing elite. If you rubbed your drool on her pajamas, 10 lives wouldn't be enough to pay for it. Watching your silly, panicked attempts to wipe your mouth, the dark, bottomless depths of Xingyao's eyes finally ripple with emotion. A very soft, low chuckle vibrates from her chest, ringing right into your eardrums. Xingyao doesn't push you away, nor does she disgustedly wipe her clothes. She lifts the hand resting at your waist. That hand trails slowly up your spine, weaving through your messy hair, and finally, her slightly cool fingertips gently brush against your cheek, the movement slow and deliberate, carrying a lazy sort of intimacy. Good morning. Right after, Xingyao pinches the soft flesh of your cheek. It feels so soft she can't seem to let go. Her gaze wanders across your face. Finally, it comes to rest on your pale, fragile neck. The look in her eyes isn't fierce, but it makes you shiver instinctively. It's an incredibly dark, predatory hunger. Like someone who has been starving for a long time, staring at the most succulent piece of meat on their plate. She's evaluating, admiring, thinking about where the most delicious place to take a bite would be. Moog. She caresses your cheek, her thin lips parting slightly, whispering something that makes your whole body burn. See? I told you, you're mine. Holding you, I didn't even have a single nightmare. You're forced to tilt your head back, enduring her touch and that intense gaze. Miss Xing. I didn't mean to. Once I fell asleep, it doesn't matter. Xingyao cuts you off right there, her fingertips tracing down, pressing right against your wildly pulsing carotid artery. She's in a fantastic mood. Not just because she slept so well, but more so because she woke up to find you clinging to her like a little animal. This feeling of being completely dependent upon immensely satisfies her twisted possessiveness. Since you're awake, Xingyao finally lets you go, but gives your head a little pat. Like she's commanding a little pet. Go get my clothes. I have a morning meeting today. Pick out a tie for me. As if granted a pardon, you scramble off her body on all fours. You practically tumble out of bed, your legs turning to jelly. Without looking back, you bolt for the bathroom. I'm going to wash up. Xingyao leans back against the headboard, watching your panicked escape. The amusement in her eyes slowly fades away, returning to that deep, shadowy darkness. She raises her hand, bringing it to her nose for a soft sniff. Her fingertips still carry the lingering warmth of your cheek. And that faint, sweet scent of yours smells so good. Xingyao licks her dry lips, her breathing catching for just a fraction of a second. This little creature seems to be getting her more and more addicted. It's not just about holding you to sleep anymore. She's starting to greedily crave more. It's the third day of sleeping in the same bed, and you feel like you're on the verge of a nervous breakdown. You thought that if you just overcame the fear of the first night, you'd get used to it. But as it turns out, trying to get used to a wildly aggressive woman wrapping around you every night like an octopus is a massive test of willpower. Especially since the shared body heat is just too intense. Even with the air conditioning blasting, her body pressed tightly against your back still feels like a roaring furnace. Right now, it's 11 at night, and the room is pitch black. Xingyao holds you from behind just like always, her arm draped heavily across your chest. Her palm rests casually on your stomach, her chin resting against the top of your head. Her warm breath brushes against the back of your neck. Every breath feels like a feather brushing across your heart, ticklish and burning hot. You're completely stiff, like a board, not daring to move a muscle. Because you know that if you move even a little bit, you'll brush against the firm, supple curves of the woman behind you. That feeling is just too vivid. Too distracting, making your mind race. You can hear your own heart pounding like crazy, beating so fast it feels like it's going to burst right out of your chest. Oh, crap. You suddenly remember Xingyao has super sensitive hearing. In the dead silence of the night, this thunderous heartbeat. Is it going to sound as loud as a drum in her ears? Is she going to think you're having dirty thoughts about her? No way. I have to calm down. You squeeze your eyes shut, take a deep breath, and force yourself to think about something else. You start silently reciting the most boring, complicated medical texts you know. The Yellow Emperor's inner classic. The heart is the supreme master, the seat of consciousness. The lungs are the prime minister, controlling the vital rhythms. You silently chant the obscure ancient texts, trying to use dry academic theory to put out the fire inside you. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. She is a patient. She's my creditor. She's a crazy woman. She is not a woman. Just as your heartbeat starts to settle, the woman behind you, who was supposed to be asleep, suddenly moves. Her hand slowly slides up. Your parents, to pay off their debts, sold you overnight to this rich heiress with bipolar disorder and extreme sound sensitivity. Finally, her hand stops perfectly over your heart, right through your thin clothes. You jump in surprise, your body instantly tensing up. What are you mumbling? Xingyao's voice suddenly rings right by your ear. Her lips are practically brushing against your ear, her voice low and raspy, with a hint of playful amusement from being woken up. Your mouth hasn't stopped moving. Are you chanting some kind of curse on me? Your scalp tingles. You quickly deny it. No, I'd never dare curse you. Then what are you doing? Her hand doesn't move away. Instead, she gently presses her fingertips against your chest, as if checking the rhythm. Your heart is beating so fast. Feeling guilty about something? You look completely helpless. To hide those unspeakable thoughts, you have no choice but to spout total nonsense with a straight face. I'm reciting medical texts. Xingyao raises an eyebrow. She clearly wasn't expecting that answer. You swallow hard, trying your best to sound professional. In Chinese medicine, the heart rules the spirit. I was feeling a bit restless just now. Reciting the inner classic helps calm the mind and soothe the nerves. It's just to help me sleep. That's right, just to help me sleep. If I make myself tired by reciting, I won't be nervous. But Xingyao let out a soft chuckle in the dark. She could definitely feel how stiff and nervous you were. That adorable shyness mixed with your sweet scent was more intoxicating to her than anything else. Reciting medical textbooks to calm down? What a cute, clumsy little fool. Is that so? She leaned in closer, her nose almost brushing against your cheek. What kind of medical textbook is that magical? Right after that, her fingers trailed down your cheek, casually pinching your earlobe, playing with it gently. Funny, I can't sleep either. The next second, her lips pressed right against your ear. Read it out loud. You completely froze. Xingyao sounded so smug. Didn't you say it helps you sleep? Since it's your little trick, we should share it. Recite it for me. But, it's really boring. Recite. That single word crushed all your protests. You had no choice. So, in the middle of this incredibly tension-filled night, curled up in her arms, you started stumbling through the words. The Yellow Emperor asked, I have heard that in ancient times, there were true masters who held the heavens and earth, and grasped the forces of yin and yang. Your voice was trembling with nerves. Those serious, dry ancient texts somehow sounded completely different coming from your lips. It was like a soft spring rain, crisp, sweet to the ear, and wonderfully soothing. Xingyao closed her eyes, resting her chin in the crook of your neck. As she listened, the smile on her lips grew deeper and deeper. This wasn't reciting a medical textbook at all. This was basically whispering sweet pillow talk to her. Your voice got softer and softer, because you noticed. The breathing of the woman behind you was getting incredibly steady. She seemed to actually be falling asleep. The hand that had been teasing your earlobe finally stopped moving. You quietly let out a sigh of relief and stopped your recitation. However, just as you thought you were safe and tried to subtly inch away, the arm wrapped around your waist suddenly pulled you tight. She didn't even open her eyes. She just murmured, like she was sleep-talking. The heart houses the soul. Mujay, you my soul. You completely froze. Before you could even process that, she buried her face deeper into you and fell completely fast asleep, leaving you all alone, your heart pounding like crazy in the dark. In the blink of an eye, autumn arrived in the capital. A sleek Maybach slowly pulled up to the gates of the medical university, drawing countless stares. A top-tier luxury car with an A8 VIP license plate like that practically screamed stay away to anyone ordinary. The next second, the car door opened. You stepped out, carrying your backpack. The familiar campus air rushed over you, filled with the scent of youth and the sound of cheerful laughter. The dead, oppressive silence of Xingyuan was gone, and so was that lingering, bitter scent. For a split second, you almost fooled yourself into thinking you were free. But then, the phone in your pocket buzzed. You pulled it out, just one short text. Don't take it off. Be good. Just those few simple words, but they hit you like a bucket of ice water, instantly drowning out that tiny spark of joy. You subconsciously raise your hand, touching your collarbone, right beneath your shirt collar. That cold, silver choker was clinging tightly to your skin. The delicate, hollow silver sphere hung there, like a cold, dead eye, staring right through your clothes. This wasn't jewelry, it was a leash, a brand, seared into you by Xingyao. A constant reminder that even if you escaped the walls of Xingyuan, you were still just a toy in the palm of her hand. You took a deep breath, trying to choke down the suffocation. It was early autumn, not even cold out. Yet you were wearing a beige silk scarf tied around your neck. The whole look made you stick out like a sore thumb on campus. But you didn't have a choice. That necklace was way too obvious. If you didn't cover it up, and someone noticed the micro-tracker hidden inside, the consequences would be a nightmare. Gripping your backpack straps, you kept your head down and hurried toward the dorms. The next second, you pushed open the door to room 302. The loud chatter inside instantly died down. Lin Shan, the trust fund kid decked out in designer gear, shot you a look through the mirror. His voice dripped with sarcasm. Well, if it isn't our missing campus idol, Mujay. We seriously thought you dropped out to become some rich lady's boy toy. You froze in your tracks. You forced a stiff smile. My family had an emergency. It held me up. You walked over to your desk and started unpacking. Family emergency, huh? Lin Shan spun his chair around, his eyes scanning you like a spotlight, finally locking onto that weird silk scarf. Hey, Mujay, that Maybach downstairs just now. That was dropping you off, wasn't it? I saw the whole thing. Hearing that, the other two guys in the room immediately turned to look. Their expressions suddenly got complicated. You were known as the broke, hardworking guy on campus. But a car like that was easily worth over $1 million. You stammered out an excuse. That was my relative's car. Relative? Lin Shan scoffed. He actually stood up and walked right over to you, reaching his hand out to grab your scarf. What kind of relative is that loaded? And what the hell is with this scarf in this weather? You hiding something on your neck? Don't touch me. You violently jerked away, stumbling backward, slapping a hand over your throat. The reaction was way too intense. The room fell dead silent. Lin Shan's hand just froze in midair. His face darkened. Geez, it's just a scarf, man. What the hell are you so paranoid about? But right at that moment, because you jerked back so hard, a corner of the silk scarf slipped down. A piece of the silver chain, and that delicate little silver ball, were suddenly exposed just like that. Even though it was just for a split second, Lin Shan saw it clearly. He froze on the spot. After all, he was a rich kid who knew his stuff. He could tell at a glance that the chain was nothing ordinary. That special silver material, the top-tier craftsmanship, it was definitely custom high jewelry. What is? The contempt in his eyes instantly turned into jealousy and intense curiosity. Muje, this relative of yours treats you really well, huh? This necklace is probably worth all 4 years of our dorm's tuition combined. The air in the room instantly froze. Envy, jealousy, suspicion, all kinds of stares pierced into you like needles. You tightly clutched the little silver ball. It was slightly warming up in the palm of your hand. You didn't dare to speak. Because you knew, that terrifying woman was wearing her headphones right now on the other side of the city. Coldly listening to all of this. To pay off their debts, your parents sold you overnight to a rich heiress with bipolar disorder and severe sound sensitivity. You could only lower your head, your voice trembling as you lied. It's a fake. I bought it at a street stall. Just to cover a scar. After saying that, you bolted to the bathroom like you were running for your life, slamming the door shut with a bang. Outside the door, Lin Shan's disdainful scoff immediately followed. Who are you trying to fool? You listened to Lin Shan's cold sarcasm outside. While your body weakly slid down the door, you reached up and touched that freezing cold necklace. They all envied you for riding in luxury cars and wearing high-end jewelry. But they didn't know, this wasn't marrying into money at all. This was clearly like dancing on the edge of a cliff with a leash around your neck. And the woman holding that leash was hiding in the dark right now, spying on your every single move. The next second, inside the medical university's lab building, the smell of disinfectant hung in the air. But to you, this was the long-lost scent of freedom. You were wearing your white coat, completely absorbed in staring at the microscope. Right then, a crisp female voice called out, Muje, look at this data. It was Shu, a senior from your research group, known around campus as a total genius. Holding her lab notebook, she naturally leaned in close and pointed at the computer screen. The activity level here is way higher than expected. Your thesis's core argument is proven. Really? Your eyes lit up, and you instantly leaned in closer. Your head was right next to hers. Because you were so engrossed. You didn't even notice that your shoulders were almost touching. That's awesome. You looked at the perfect data and let out a genuine laugh. Thank you so much. Thanks to you keeping an eye on it for me. Otherwise, my graduation really would have been delayed. Your laugh was bright and clear, carrying that unique, sunny warmth of a young man. Senior Shu looks at your smile, just inches away, her cheeks blushing slightly. No worries, just buy me some milk tea next time. The atmosphere is warm, even carrying a hint of sweet, youthful innocence. But, right at the exact moment you're about to say yes, your phone starts vibrating violently in your pocket, completely out of nowhere. The buzzing sounds like a frantic alarm, instantly shattering the sweet moment. Your smile completely freezes. You pull out your phone. There's no name saved on the screen, just a string of numbers you know by heart. It's Xingyao. Your stomach violently drops. It's 3:10 in the afternoon. She should be in a meeting right now. Why is she calling all of a sudden? Sorry, senior, I gotta take this. You grab your phone and hurry over to the corner, carefully hitting the answer button. Hello, Ms. Xing? You intentionally lower your voice, but there is only a suffocating, dead silence on the other end of the line. A full 3 seconds go by before a freezing, emotionless voice comes through the speaker, instantly turning your blood to ice. A woman. You violently flinch. You almost drop your phone. How does she know? You literally just answered. How could she possibly know you were talking to a woman? You instinctively touch the wooden feather necklace resting on your collarbone, and the second your fingertips brush it, you realize, real-time, high-definition audio surveillance. She hadn't missed a single beat. She's been sitting there with headphones on, listening in on your every single move, your conversation with your senior, your laughter, even the sound of her breathing. Every single thing was feeding directly into her ears. It's my senior. You croak out, your throat completely dry. Your voice is visibly shaking. We were just talking about our lab data. Stay away from her. Xingyao instantly cuts off your explanation. Her tone is dead calm. But the absolute violence hiding underneath that calmness makes your skin crawl. 3 meters. No. 5 meters. She issues a completely absurd order from the other end of the line. Right now. Immediately. Step back. You don't dare disobey her. Like a puppet on a string, you hold your phone. And stiffly back up a few steps, not stopping until your back hits the cold wall. Only then do you whisper, I stepped back. I did it. You feel so utterly helpless. So this is what she meant by letting you go back to school. Your body is here, but your soul is still trapped completely under her thumb. You desperately try to fight for a tiny shred of a normal social life. Miss Xing, we were really just looking at data. Mu Zhe. Xingyao's voice is dripping with heavy disgust and pure irritation. It's the exact sign that her hyperacusis is acting up. It's not that I'm forbidding you from talking, she scoffs softly over the phone. Offering up a completely sick and twisted excuse. It's just that woman's voice. It sounds absolutely disgusting. That fake, squeaky voice. It's literally like nails scratching on a chalkboard. She paused, her tone dripping with a dark, painful malice. It's so grating, it makes my eyes hurt. You were left utterly speechless. Senior Shu was a broadcaster for the campus radio. Everyone agreed she had a beautiful voice. To this lunatic, every single voice in the world, other than yours, was just pure noise. Not to mention, this was a woman's voice that actually made her feel threatened. Make her shut up, or get the hell away from her. Xingyao coldly dropped her final ultimatum. If I hear her laugh one more time, I'll have someone rip her tongue right out. Beep, beep. The call disconnected. You leaned against the wall, your hands and feet turning ice cold. Mu Zhe, what's wrong? Seeing you suddenly turn pale, Senior Shu looked concerned and started walking over. Don't come over here, you yelled out abruptly, giving Senior Shu quite a scare. Looking at her stunned expression, your heart was overwhelmed with guilt and a deep sense of helplessness. You couldn't let her come any closer, because that absolute psycho wasn't just listening, she might even be watching right now. I'm just not feeling well. You lowered your head and clutched your collar tightly, desperate to hide that terrifying necklace. Senior Shu, just go back to your work. With that said, you practically fled back to the lab bench. This was your life now. No privacy, no social life whatsoever. You were just like a puppet rigged with surveillance cameras. Every single move you made had to be strictly approved by that powerful, ultra-rich heiress. If you crossed the line even by half a step, that psycho would completely destroy everything and everyone around you. The late autumn night breeze carried a bitter chill. You walked briskly toward the black Maybach parked at the campus gate, feeling a sickening illusion that you were crawling right back into a cage. You slipped into the back seat. The heater was blasting, carrying that familiar, icy scent of cedarwood. Xingyao sat deep in the shadows, a laptop resting on her knees. You greeted her softly, Ms. Xing, I'm back. But the moment the heavy car door clicked shut, Xingyao's fingers froze on the keyboard. She didn't even look at you, but her nostrils flared slightly, and her eyebrows knitted together in a fierce scowl. What the hell is that smell on you? She turned her head, her eyes sweeping over you in pure disgust. You froze for a second, lifting your sleeve to take a sniff. I don't smell anything, just the usual campus smell. Xingyao let out a cold, sharp laugh. She suddenly leaned in right against your neck, sniffing intensely like a police dog tracking a scent. Pungent disinfectant, cheap, greasy cafeteria food. Her face darkened more by the second, until her gaze finally locked onto your collar. A flash of violent disgust crossed her eyes. And some cheap, sickeningly sweet, synthetic perfume. To pay off their massive debts, your parents had sold you overnight to this insanely wealthy heiress. A woman plagued by severe bipolar disorder and an extreme sensitivity to sound. It turned out to be from Lin Shan, when he accidentally got some of his cologne on you. But to Xingyao, with her hypersensitive senses, and her sick obsession with your natural herbal scent, it was an absolute disaster. It was as if her most precious cure had been tossed into a filthy vat of dye. It was ruined, completely contaminated. Pull over, Xingyao suddenly snapped. The driver frantically pulled over to the side. Miss, roll down the windows. Xingyao shifted away from you, as if you were some highly contagious disease. She rolled down all the windows, letting the freezing night wind howl into the car, trying to blow away that tainted smell, giving her a splitting headache. You huddled in the corner, totally at a loss, shivering uncontrollably in the biting cold. Ms. Xing, that's just my roommate's cologne. It's... Xingyao pressed her fingers against her temples, her face twisting with furious agitation. This stench is making my brain ache. That look of absolute disgust on her face stung you to the core. You lowered your head, and went completely silent. So, in her eyes, just having a trace of ordinary human scent on you was an unforgivable sin. You had to remain perfectly sterile, purely flawless at all times. Just a pristine object for her to consume. The Maybach sped through the night, back to the Xing estate. The second the car came to a halt, Xingyao stormed out, marching straight up to the third floor. You trailed quietly behind her, But the moment you stepped into the master bedroom, she grabbed your wrist with a vicious grip. Ms. Xing, before you could even react, she yanked you roughly into the bathroom. Slam. She locked the door behind you. Xingyao let you go. She turned and grabbed a bottle of dark green body wash from the shelf. It was her personal, top-tier custom blend, fir and cedarwood. Take it. She shoved the heavy bottle hard against your chest. The hard plastic dug painfully into your skin. Go wash. Xingyao pointed at the shower stall, glaring down at you with absolute dominance. Her eyes were terrifyingly dark. Take all those filthy, disgusting smells, and scrub them the hell off. That awful stench, the grease, and whatever damn perfume or women's scent is on you. Wash it all off. You clutched the bottle to your chest, biting your lower lip. I was going to wash up anyway. Then scrub harder. Xingyao took a threatening step closer, pinching your chin tightly between her fingers. Her gaze was overwhelmingly predatory, looking like she wanted to rip you apart. If you step out of there, and I smell even a single trace of that filth on you. She leaned in, her lips grazing your ear, and whispered a vicious threat. Don't even think about getting in bed tonight. You'll sleep on the cold balcony floor. With that, she spun around and walked out, leaving you alone in the heavy, suffocating steam. You had no choice. You turned on the shower head, letting the scalding water wash over your body. Half an hour later, you changed into clean pajamas and walked out. The bedroom lights had been dimmed. Xingyao was leaning against the headboard, staring at the bathroom door. Seeing you step out, she put down her book. Muyu manga. She motioned with her hand, like she was calling over a freshly bathed puppy. You walked over obediently, and kneeled down beside her. The next second, Xingyao impatiently pulled you into her arms. Muyu manga. She lowered her head, burying her face in the crook of your neck. Taking a deep, heavy breath in. Muyu manga. This time, there was no sharp stench of disinfectant, no cheap perfume, just your warm, milky scent, mixing with her own rich, icy fragrance. Your entire body was completely steeped in her scent. That familiar sense of security instantly smoothed away all her agitation. Xingyao's tense body completely relaxed. She closed her eyes, nuzzling against the side of your neck. A sick, twisted smile tugged at her lips. That's more like it. She tightened her arms, locking you in her embrace. Her voice was husky and lazy. Mu Jie, remember this scent. You are mine. Don't you ever come back with anyone else's scent on you again. I don't like it. You leaned against her chest, smelling the mingled scents of you both. Your heart felt completely desolate. You had been scrubbed clean. In this cage, you had finally become a qualified, pure remedy once again. 2 in the morning, a fierce wind howled outside the window. You were sleeping groggily, when you suddenly felt the warm body next to you shift strangely. Xingyao was trembling. At first, it was just a slight shiver, but soon, the shaking became violent and uncontrollable, making the massive bed vibrate right along with her. Ms. Xing, you were startled awake. You instinctively reached out to touch her arm, but all you felt was cold, clammy skin. She was drenched in a cold sweat. The woman who had been burning hot just moments ago now felt like a piece of freezing iron pulled straight from the ice. Don't. In the dark, the woman let out a muffled, broken murmur. Dripping with absolute terror. Don't jump. Your heart violently clenched. You heard it clearly. She was screaming, don't jump. There was a rumor in the elite capital circles that on Xingyao's 10th birthday, right in front of her very eyes, her father threw himself off the top floor of the Xing Corporation building. His skull shattered, blood splattering everywhere. That was the nightmare of her life, and the root of her madness. Right now, she was dragged back to that blood-soaked afternoon. A low, ragged gasp tore from Xingyao's throat, like a dying beast. Her hands clawed wildly at the air, her knuckles cracking loudly. She was trying to catch that falling silhouette, but she couldn't. Her dream was filled with nothing but the screaming wind. Nothing but the resolute look in her father's eyes. That utter helplessness and pure terror was almost tearing her apart. Looking at her agonizing, twisted face, a bitter, aching wave of sadness welled up in your heart. At this moment, she was no longer the princess of the Beijing elite, just a girl trapped in a nightmare. A little girl crying and begging her father not to leave. Xingyao, you sat up abruptly, desperately hugging her violently shaking shoulders. Wake up, Xingyao, wake up. It was the first time you had called her by her full name. Your voice wasn't loud, but it carried a steady, grounding strength. You held her tightly, your hand patting her back in a gentle, rhythmic motion. Like soothing a frightened baby. It's just a dream. None of it is real. Don't be afraid. The next second, Xingyao's eyes snapped open. In the moonlight, you saw her usually piercing eyes. Now completely unfocused and dazed, her pupils dilated. They were bloodshot, brimming with sheer terror and fragility. Like a shattered piece of glass. Moog. She stared at you for a long time before her gaze slowly came into focus. Her voice was unbelievably hoarse. It's me. I'm right here, you quickly replied, wiping the cold sweat from her forehead with your sleeve. You had a nightmare. You're safe now. Xingyao was gasping heavily, her chest heaving, but she could see clearly now. In front of her, there were no tall buildings. No dead bodies. There was only a young man with messy hair, looking at her with eyes full of worry. He was warm. He was alive. The very next second, Xingyao seemed to be drained of all her strength, collapsing forward. She buried her head heavily into your arms, her cheek pressed against your warm, firm chest. Her ear pressed tightly against your heart. It was the sound of your heartbeat. Steady, strong, warm. It worked better than any lullaby. Xingyao wrapped her arms around your waist. It was no longer a gesture of possession, but a desperate cling, like someone drowning. She greedily breathed in the herbal scent on your skin. It was the only antidote to chase away the smell of blood. Don't move, she mumbled softly against your chest, her voice carrying a faint, choked sob and deep vulnerability. Just like this. Let me stay like this for a while. Your parents, to pay off their debt, had sold you overnight to this wealthy heiress suffering from bipolar disorder and extreme sensitivity to sound. Your body stiffened for a moment, then slowly relaxed. You didn't push her away. You simply held the embrace, gently stroking the back of her sweat-dampened head. Okay, I won't move. You coaxed her softly, resting your chin on the top of her head. Sleep now. I'm right here. That night, Xingyao made no more aggressive moves. She just curled up in your arms like an insecure child, listening to your heartbeat, breathing in your scent, calming the trembling of her soul. In the past, you're just her body pillow, her addiction. But on this freezing night, you are her lifeline. You're the only sliver of light she can hold onto, in this pitch-black, hopeless world. Until the sky turned pale, and the faint morning light broke through. You sat in that same position for half the night, until half your body went completely numb. But you never let go. The woman in your arms finally drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep under your soothing touch. But her hand, gripping the edge of your shirt, didn't loosen even a fraction, from beginning to end. The late autumn night was growing colder. The medical university library was brightly lit. To rush your thesis, you stayed until the last half hour before closing. Right then, a steaming cup of latte was suddenly placed on the edge of your desk. Overthinking wears you out. Have something warm to wake you up. A gentle, clear female voice rang out from above. You looked up, and met a pair of smiling eyes. It was a senior from the traditional medicine department. Ji Ching, also recognized as the beautiful and intelligent campus belle. Senior Ji. You were a bit surprised, and quickly tried to decline. Oh, no thank you. I was just about to leave. Don't be so polite. Ji Ching sat down right across from you instead. Her smile was as warm as a spring breeze. Are you stuck on that theory from the Shanghan Loon? I actually have some rare notes on that. I'll bring them to you next time. She knew exactly how to act, respectful and considerate of boundaries. Talking to her was so incredibly comfortable. Compared to that temperamental lunatic, she was the complete opposite extreme. Your heart warmed a little. Your tense nerves relaxed just a bit. Thank you so much, senior. But then, Ji Ching's eyes suddenly fell on the necklace resting against your collarbone. This necklace. Ji Ching pushed up her glasses, a flash of admiration in her eyes. It's very unique. It looks like a delicate little cage. It really suits you. The hand you just used to pick up the coffee trembled violently. A little cage. Those words felt like a needle, piercing right through the calm you were trying so hard to maintain. You instinctively covered the small, hollow silver sphere. Cold sweat instantly seeped into your palms. Ji Ching was just giving a compliment, but she had no idea that she had accidentally spoken the most cruel truth. It really was a cage. And the person who made that cage might be on the other end, coldly listening to this exact conversation. It's just an accessory. Your face went deathly pale. You stood up in a panic, moving so fast that you lost your composure. Senior, it's getting too late. I have to go back. Ji Ching noticed something was off about you, but she still stood up with you. It's so late. Let me walk you back to your dorm. No need. You refused so fast and so desperately, your voice even cracked. You didn't dare let her walk you. If that lunatic found out, the consequences would be unthinkable. I can walk myself. Bye, senior. You grab your backpack, practically fleeing as you rush out of the reading room and out of the library. The night air is chilling. The moment the cold wind hits you, the sheer panic in your chest finally starts to settle. You immediately whip out your phone to check. No missed calls, no messages. The bug seems completely dead. You tell yourself, clinging to a shred of hope. Maybe Xingyao was just busy. Maybe she didn't hear a single word of that conversation. You keep your head down, ready to head back to the dorms. But, you haven't even taken 2 steps before you freeze, rooted to the spot. There, cloaked in the shadows of the plaza, beneath a massive sycamore tree, sits a jet black Maybach. Its sleek body melding perfectly into the dark of the night. Only its arrogant license plate reflects a chilling gleam. And leaning against the car, is a tall silhouette of a woman. Xingyao. An unlit cigarette rests between her pale fingers, twirling carelessly back and forth. Like a surgeon toying with a scalpel. Your blood turns to ice. She's here, and worse. God knows how long she's been waiting. Moog? Behind you, Ji Ching, still worried, has actually followed you out. Why are you just standing there? Your entire body is paralyzed. You want to scream at Ji Yuqing to run, but your voice completely fails you. At the sound of another woman's voice, Xingyao finally moves from the car. She slowly tilts her head up. Those deep, pitch-black eyes cut straight through the darkness, looking right past you, and locking dead onto Ji Yuqing behind you. The streetlights completely fail to pierce the thick, suffocating darkness in her gaze. Come here, Xingyao finally speaks. Her voice isn't loud, but it hits like a divine command. Your legs go completely weak as you stiffly drag yourself over to her side. The very next second, Xingyao reaches out, snakes her arm around your waist, and yanks you flush against her. Only then does she lazily lift her eyelids, staring down a completely bewildered Ji Yuqing. With a soft snap, her fingers break the cigarette in two. She lets the loose tobacco spill from her hand, her lips curling into a cruel, sickening smirk. You two seem to be having quite the chat upstairs. Her gaze drags over Ji Yuqing's face. She lets out a soft, mocking scoff. This, classmate. She bites down on those last two words with a heavy, venomous weight. What sounds like a casual remark practically drips with a lethal warning. Ji Yuqing is totally stunned, seeing the sheer terror draining the color from your face. Her instincts finally scream danger. Who are? Xingyao raises a single index finger to her lips, cutting her off instantly. She has absolutely no desire to hear this woman speak. It's too loud, too utterly grating. The next second, she turns to look at you. Her fingers drift up to caress the necklace resting against your throat, softly pinching that tiny silver ball. A cage, she whispers right into your ear, breathing out the exact word Ji Yuqing used just moments ago. A sick thrill flashed in her eyes. She's absolutely right. This place is a cage. And you. She snapped her gaze up, shooting Ji Yuqing a bone-chilling glare. She pulled you away, yanking the car door open, and dropped a single, blood-curdling sentence. Keep the hell away from my cage from now on. Or else, I really wouldn't mind locking you inside, too. Got it? Saturday morning. The sun was shining brightly. After last night's total bloodbath, you fully expected Xingyao to completely lose her mind. But aside from terrifying Ji Yuqing, she surprisingly didn't punish you at all. You even started to delude yourself, thinking, maybe she isn't entirely unreasonable. At the dining table, Xingyao was slowly, deliberately sipping her coffee. Seeing you all dressed and ready to go, her fingers gripping the cup's handle paused just a fraction. Where do you think you're going? I wanted to go to the mall. You cautiously asked for permission. The seasons are changing. I need to buy a couple of warmer clothes. And the class president asked me to go get boba. You felt your reasons were perfectly valid. However, Xingyao just set down her coffee cup. The porcelain clinked sharply against the saucer with a crisp, clear ding. No. A single word. Sharp and absolute. You froze. The smile completely died on your face. But, why? I know it's the weekend. Xingyao leaned back against her chair. Her slender fingers tapped lightly against the table. Those dark, bottomless eyes locked onto you. Like a ruthless capitalist calculating her debts. Muje, let's do some math, shall we? Your parents, to pay off their massive debts, sold you off overnight to a wealthy heiress suffering from severe bipolar disorder and extreme sensitivity to sound. You stared blankly. What math? For 5 days this week, you spent a full 50 hours at school. Yet by my side, your effective, wide-awake companionship time adds up to less than 30 hours. 50 to 30. Muje, do you really think that's fair? You were completely dumbfounded. What kind of twisted, psychologic was that? You were going to school, not out partying. How could she even calculate that? A severe deficit in hours. Xingyao didn't entertain a single word of your defense, immediately handing down her sentence. Considering you've been running wild outside for far too long this week, causing my treatment progress to fall severely behind. She stood up, slowly circling around behind you. Resting both hands heavily on your shoulders, she leaned in until her lips brushed against your ear. Her voice dropped low, dangerously soft. So, this weekend, you're not going anywhere. The time you owe me? You're going to pay it all back. With interest. That's final. Your highly anticipated weekend plans totally went up in smoke. Just like that, you were completely grounded. And the place of your confinement was that cedar-scented study. For a full 2 days, the servants were astonished to find that the usually tense and suffocating study was actually as quiet and peaceful as a painting this weekend. Inside the study, Xingyao was handling her work, taking video calls, while you were tucked away on that custom little sofa right beside her. You were less than half a meter away. You read your books, ground your herbs, and organize your notes. But no matter what you did, one of Xingyao's hands never once left you. When she was reading documents, her left hand would play with your hair. When she was deep in thought, she'd hold your hand, gently squeezing your fingertips and massaging your palm. Even when she was tired, she would just push her laptop away and pat her lap for you to come over, holding you tight to recharge. There were no arguments, no fear, no conflicts, only a suffocating, overwhelmingly thick sense of warmth. Sunday afternoon, just around dusk, You finished grinding the last jar of calming incense, rubbing your sore wrist. And subconsciously turned your head. Miss Xing, it's done, but before you could finish your sentence, you realized Xingyao had already fallen asleep. She was leaning back in her chair, still loosely holding a lock of your hair. The evening sun spilled across her face, casting a soft, golden glow over her. You looked at her, and the hand that was about to pull your hair away, suddenly stopped. You turned to look out the window. A few birds were gliding across the sky, completely free. If this were when you first arrived, you would have been filled with anger, resentment, and a burning desire to escape. But now, on this dusk, after being locked indoors for 2 days, you realized with terror that as you looked at the freedom outside, your heart barely fluttered at all. You looked back at the sleeping woman, then down at the incense jar in your hands. You had gotten used to it. Used to being caged by her side. Used to her touch. Used to this kind of obsessively pampered life. Even just now, when she was asleep, you subconsciously turned your pages quieter so you wouldn't wake her. That was the most terrifying part. It wasn't the violence. It wasn't the threats. It was this slow, boiling frog kind of warmth. It was wearing down your edges, eroding your willpower, turning you from someone who yearned for the sky, into someone who willingly stays locked inside a cage. A sudden chill crept up from the soles of your feet. You violently yanked your hair back. Xingyao stirred, her eyelashes fluttered, and she slowly opened her eyes. Those deep, dark eyes looking up in a daze. The moment she saw you, she instinctively reached out and pulled you into her arms. You finished. So good. You lay stiffly against her chest, listening to her gentle praise. But your heart was sinking, little by little. Things couldn't keep going on like this. If you didn't escape now, you would truly never be able to leave. Monday at 2 in the afternoon. The study curtains were drawn tight, and the atmosphere was so heavy it felt suffocating. Xingyao wore gold-rimmed glasses and a Bluetooth earpiece. In the middle of a meeting with global executives, her fingers tapped against the keyboard, while the executives on the screen trembled in fear. And you sat on the small sofa beside her, holding a medical book but unable to absorb a single word. The aura in here was just too intense. When working, Xingyao radiated a chilling, cross me and die kind of energy. Desperate for a breath of fresh air, you quietly set the book down. You pointed at the door, mouthing the words, "I am heading downstairs for a bit." Xingyao didn't even tear her eyes away from the screen. She simply tapped her index finger lightly on the desk, meaning granted. You felt like you had just been handed a pardon. Hugging a jar, you tiptoed your way out of that pressure cooker of a room. Down in the back garden, the early autumn sunlight spilled over the lawn, finally chasing away the chill clinging to your bones. You took a deep breath, and your lungs completely cleared. You crouched in a corner of the planter beds, where large patches of mint and perilla grew. Xingyao had been so restless and irritable lately. You thought to yourself, fresh mint leaves crushed into juice, mixed with a bit of borneol, would really help soothe her nerves. I will pick a bit more and make her a scent sachet tonight. You mumbled softly, your nimble fingers pinching off the mint tips, carefully dropping them into the basket. But this peace didn't last long. The arrogant roar of a revving engine shredded the afternoon silence, followed immediately by the shrieking of slamming brakes. You jumped, the shears in your hand nearly stabbing your own finger. Frowning, you turned around, only to see a flashy Ferrari, completely ignoring the bodyguards, recklessly crashing through the main gates. With a wild drift, it parked sideways right in front of the main building. The car door swung open, and a foot wearing studded leather boots stepped out. Right after, a young woman with dyed ash blonde hair and a loud floral shirt stepped out of the car. This person was none other than Xingyao's cousin, the infamous spoiled heiress, Xingxian. This Xing manor is exactly the same. Looking like a damn funeral home. Xingxian pulled off her sunglasses, looking around with absolute disgust, her tone dripping with contempt. The old butler marched up with a dark expression, blocking her at the steps. "Miss Chen, the young miss is in a meeting. She is not seeing guests. Please move your car out of here." "Meeting?" Xingxian let out a mocking sneer, waving the document folder in her hand. "I am here on the old man's orders, bringing some documents for my dear cousin. Are you really going to block me?" She hated Xingyao to the core. Why did Xingyao get to rule a $100 billion empire, while she had to survive on scraps and beg for approval? She heard Xingyao hadn't left the house lately. She used the excuse of dropping off some files, hoping to dig up some dirt. The young lady left strict orders. No one is to disturb her. The butler stood his ground. "You old geezer, don't push your luck." Xing Shen's face darkened, but, terrified of Xingyao, she didn't dare force her way in. Bored, she spun around, her eyes wandering aimlessly around the courtyard. Suddenly, her gaze locked onto something. Just across the garden, nestled amidst the lush greenery, stood a striking figure. Xing Shen's eyes practically popped out of her head. Since when is there a man hiding in Xing Manor? And judging by that back, that's definitely not one of the maids. Who could that be? Xing Shen licked her lips, a sickening, predatory gleam in her eyes. Your parents, desperate to clear their debts, had sold you off overnight to the rich heiress, who suffered from severe bipolar disorder and a crippling sensitivity to sound. The butler's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly stepped sideways to block her view. That is, the new gardener. Miss Shen, I must ask you to leave. Gardener? Xing Shen let out a harsh laugh. A wicked, nasty laugh. Your gardener's here. Wear silk shirts like that? Who do you think you're fooling? She had already heard the rumors that Xingyao took a son from the Mu family as collateral for a debt. She thought he'd be some country bumpkin, brought in as a plaything to soothe that crazy bitch. But who would have thought this little plaything would be this damn hot? Get out of my way. Xing Shen shoved the butler aside, making a beeline for the garden. Well, since my dear cousin is so busy, I won't bother her. She locked onto your back, the raw greed in her eyes practically overflowing. I'll just go help her inspect the new merchandise. The sunlight was warm, but as her shadow loomed closer, you felt the air around you turn instantly thick and suffocating. You had just snipped a sprig of mint when a shadow fell over you. A heavy wave of cheap perfume mixed with stale cigarette smoke completely overpowered the crisp, fresh scent of the herbs. You frowned, instinctively tightening your grip on the pruning shears, and slowly stood up. The woman standing before you was wearing a ridiculously flashy shirt, a chunky gold chain hanging from her neck. Her slanted eyes gleamed with undisguised lust, scanning you up and down like an X-ray. Xing Shen slowly circled halfway around you, clicking her tongue with a sleazy smirk. No wonder my dear cousin has been a total shut-in lately. Turns out, she's been hiding a pretty little toy boy in her garden. Her eyes roamed shamelessly over your pale neck, and your slim waist. Her tone was mockingly flirtatious. I honestly thought that cold, frigid bitch was completely dead inside, but who knew? She's actually got decent taste, keeping a cute little guy like you all to herself. Her predatory stare made your skin crawl with goosebumps. Although you'd never met her, her arrogant swagger made it pretty obvious she had to be one of the trashy cousins from the Xing family's branch line. Excuse me, miss. You took a step back, creating some distance between you. Trying to stay calm, your voice is cold and detached. I'm the perfumer hired by Miss Xing. She's in a meeting upstairs right now. Please wait in the reception room. A perfumer? Xing Shen lets out a scoff, as if she just heard a hilarious joke. Instead of backing off, she pushes her luck and takes a step closer. What perfumer? Aren't you just that little collateral the Mu family sent over to pay off their debts? She bluntly exposes your humiliating status. Your face turns pale. Your fingers grip the edge of the bamboo basket tightly. What's the matter? Did I hit a nerve? Seeing you stay silent, she thinks you're scared, and grows even bolder. She reaches out, trying to tilt your chin up. Her tone is utterly arrogant. Listen, pretty boy, stop acting. What's so great about following that psycho, Xingyao? Who knows, she might just snap one day and strangle that soft, pretty little neck of yours. Hearing the word, psycho, an inexplicable surge of anger flares up in your chest. Xingyao might be moody and unpredictable, but she is your patient. Other than you, no one gets to talk about her like that. Show some respect. You jerk your head away, dodging her hand, your eyes blazing with anger. Miss Xing is the head of the Xing family. Watch your mouth. Tisk, tisk. Quite protective of your master, aren't you? Grasping nothing but air, Xing Shen's face instantly darkens. I try to be nice, and you throw it in my face? Xing Shen sneers, no longer hiding the wicked glint in her eyes. She lunges forward. Instead of going for your chin, she reaches straight out to grab your slender waist. You're just a plaything anyway. What does it matter whose toy you are? Why don't you stick with me? I know how to show you a much better time than that frigid psycho. I guarantee I'll make you. Clack. The sharp, crisp snap of metal cuts right through Xing Shen's filthy words. Her wandering hand freezes dead in mid-air, barely half an inch from her fingers. A pair of razor-sharp gardening shears gleams menacingly. Had her hand moved even a fraction closer, it would have been her fingers getting snipped off. Xing Shen's pupils shrink in sheer terror, cold sweat instantly breaking out down her spine. She stares at you in absolute disbelief. This guy who looked so meek and submissive is now gripping the shears tightly with both hands, the lethal tips aimed straight at her. Her face is pale, your hands trembling slightly around the handles. But your eyes are colder than they've ever been. Don't touch me. You glare right into her eyes. Your voice isn't loud, but every single word is laced with ice. This is the Xing estate. You step half a pace forward. The shears in your hands glint fiercely, your tone absolutely resolute. Miss Xing is right upstairs. I dare you to try and touch me. Rattled by your sudden intensity, Xing Shen subconsciously stumbles a half step back. You little brat. You actually dare point those at me? You piece of trash. You dare pull a weapon on me? When Xing Shen finally processed what had happened, she flew into a humiliated rage. That necklace you're wearing, the bug inside it is turned on. You know, that insanely possessive woman is listening to every single word. That total psycho would absolutely never let anyone lay a finger on what's hers. Go ahead, try it. You stare her down, spacing out every single word. Let's see who's faster, you or my shears. Or maybe, you glance up at the tightly shut window on the third floor. How fast Miss Xing can make it down here. Out in the garden, the tension is suffocating, even though the garden shears in your hands are razor sharp. Against a ruthless piece of work like Xing Shen, they're just not enough. You want to test my speed? Xing Shen is absolutely livid. The sheer insult of being threatened by a mere toy twists her face into a snarl. She violently swings her arm. Fast, precise, and brutal. Her hand smashes violently against your wrist. A blinding bolt of pain shoots through your arm, and the shears go flying. Your only weapon is gone. You little punk. You just had to do it the hard way, didn't you? Murderous intent flashes in Xing Shen's eyes. She lunges forward, but then, a bone-chilling sound echoes from upstairs. Click, clack, heavy leather boots, stepping on the solid wood stairs. Slow, deliberate, but every single footstep falls like a sledgehammer against your chest. Instantly, the entire living room drops into dead silence. Xing Shen's hand, fingers curled to grab you, freezes dead in mid-air. An icy dread creeps up your spine, like a viper locking its sights on the back of your neck. You see the figure descending the stairs. It's Xingyao. She moves with agonizing slowness, every step radiating a crushing, king-like authority, and her slender right hand is completely drenched in pitch-black ink. The ink drips slowly from her fingertips, staining the carpet below. Looking exactly like dried blood, she stands there at the landing, looking down at everyone like insects. Her gaze sweeps across the hall, and locks coldly onto the woman by the sofa. In those deep, dark eyes, there is nothing but an absolute, dead emptiness. Like she's staring at a cold, rotting corpse. Xing Shen can hear the sound of her own nervous gulp. A primal, deeply rooted terror instantly freezes the blood in her veins. She turns her head, inch by stiff inch, and the moment she meets Xingyao's dead, freezing stare, every ounce of her arrogance shatters. See, cousin. Xing Shen's legs completely give out. She can't even hold herself up. She just slides right off the sofa and crashes to her knees on the floor. Cousin, she stammers out, her voice trembling out of control, desperately forcing a pathetic, sickly smile. It's a misunderstanding. I was just playing a little joke on my brother-in-law. But, Xingyao doesn't say a single word. She doesn't even acknowledge her. Instead, she just slowly, methodically, pulls out a pristine white handkerchief, elegantly wiping the ink from her fingertips. And then, she takes another step down the stairs, and with every inch she closes in, the tension in the living room was suffocating. Everyone knew, the quieter the young miss got, the more brutal the fallout would be. Blood was definitely going to spill on the manor floors today. To pay off their debts, your parents sold you overnight to a wealthy heiress with bipolar disorder and extreme sensitivity to sound. And now, Xingyao stepped up to the couch, her tall figure casting a dark shadow that completely swallowed up Xing Shen, who was slumped helplessly on the floor. Cousin, I'm so sorry. Xing Shen was shaking like a leaf. Cold sweat soaked through her floral shirt. She tried to grab Xingyao to beg for mercy. The terrifying aura radiating from her forced her to snatch her hands right back. Xingyao completely ignored her whimpering. She didn't even bat an eye, looking down as if she had just stepped on a disgusting bag of trash. Instead, her cold, dead stare locked dead onto Xing Shen's right hand. It was this exact hand that had just grabbed yours. It was this exact hand that tried to rip your clothes off just moments ago. And it was this very hand that almost touched your waist. The very next second, Xingyao leaned in slightly. Her movements were incredibly elegant, almost like she was asking for a dance. Her long, slender fingers gently wrapped around Xing Shen's right wrist, the wet ink still on her fingertips, smeared onto Xing Shen's skin, like the mark of death. Xing Shen froze, actually thinking she had been spared. A glimmer of hope flashed in her eyes as she stuttered out. Thank you, cousin. But before the words even left her mouth, a vicious, icy gleam flashed in Xingyao's dark eyes. Her pale, seemingly delicate hand clamped down with brutal force. Snap! A sickening crack echoed through the massive living room, followed instantly by a horrific, blood-curdling scream. Xing Shen's eyes bugged out of her skull, her entire face turning violently purple. You watched in pure horror, as her right wrist twisted at a grotesque 90-degree angle, dangling down completely limp. The bone was completely shattered. My hand. Xing Shen thrashed and rolled frantically on the floor in agony. Snot and tears streamed down her face. But Xingyao just let go. Her face completely blank, as if what she had just snapped in half was nothing more than a dead twig. She spat out a single word. Filthy. The butler immediately rushed over with a hot towel. Xingyao took a wipe and methodically cleaned every single one of her fingers, rubbing until her skin was red, before casually tossing the dirty wipe onto Xing Shen's wailing face. The stark white cloth landed on her like a funeral shroud. If you can't keep your hands to yourself, Xingyao's voice was deadly flat, then you don't get to keep them. At this point, in that massive living room, not a single soul dared to look at Xing Shen. And after dealing with the trash, Xingyao actually turned and started walking toward you. You were trembling uncontrollably. You knew she did it to save you. But her brutal methods made you recoil in instinctual fear. Ms. Xing, who would have thought? Seeing the sheer terror in your eyes, Xingyao stopped in her tracks. To everyone's shock, she walked right up to you and knelt on one knee on the sofa, bringing herself eye level with you. And then, she slowly raised her left hand. There, wrapped around her pale, powerful wrist, was a string of cold, white jade Bodhi beads. You suddenly remembered, that was the Xing family's heirloom. The very token Xingyao never, ever took off. Rumor had it, those beads were used to suppress her bloodlust. As long as the beads remained intact, she remained sane. If the beads shattered, she would perish. Yet, right at this very moment, under the stunned gazes of everyone present, Xingyao, with a completely blank expression, took that very string of beads. The beads that represented her sanity and absolute authority. Loop by loop, she unraveled it from her own wrist. The 108 smooth jade beads clicked crisply against each other in the dead silence. Give me your hand. Xingyao's voice was low and dangerously husky. It was a command you couldn't refuse. You stared at her in a daze, subconsciously reaching out your left hand. The very next second, Xingyao's fingers wrapped around yours. Her palm was scorching hot, while your hand was as cold as ice. Without a word, she took that prayer bracelet and slowly slipped it onto your wrist. The bracelet hung loosely, way too big for you. But Xingyao didn't seem to care. With painstaking patience, like she was performing some sacred ritual, she wrapped it around her wrist once. It was too loose, so she wrapped it again. Still loose, she kept going until it wrapped around 3 full times. Only then did the heavy, cold white jade beads sit securely on your skin. It's too big, you stammered, instantly panicking. This was the very weight of her power. Ms. Xing, this is way too precious, wear it. Xingyao cut you off instantly. Her thumb gently stroked the jade beads, before pressing down right against her racing pulse. Then, she slowly turned her head. Her pitch black, bottomless eyes coldly swept across every single person in the hall. Finally, her gaze locked back onto your face. Mu Zhe, remember this. Her voice wasn't loud, but it hit the floor like dead weight, echoing fiercely in everyone's ears. This bracelet is my very life. And from this day forward, it belongs to you. As soon as the words left her mouth, she violently grabbed your hand, the one wearing the beads, and raised it high into the air, like she was declaring absolute ownership. From now on, in this elite circle, seeing this bracelet is the exact same as seeing me. Boom, the entire room went into absolute shock. The butler's head snapped up, his eyes wide with utter disbelief. Seeing the bracelet is like seeing her? How the hell was this just a gift? This was a foolproof talisman, an absolute shield of immunity, meant that Xingyao had just handed over half of her life, and all of her supreme authority. I'm giving this to you, holding nothing back. Whoever dares to lay a single finger on you, is slapping me, Xingyao, right in the face, and challenging the entire Xing family. Hearing this, Xing Shen, slumped on the floor, fell into absolute despair. She finally understood, this man was no mere plaything. He was the precious darling Xingyao held closest to her heart. Do you understand? Xingyao looked down at your stunned face. Her tone actually softened a fraction, laced with an imperceptible tenderness and a dark, obsessive possessiveness. Keep it on. It's a lock, and a shield. As long as you wear it, every demon and monster in this world will have to step aside for you. You looked down at the prayer beads on your wrist, feeling the lingering warmth of her skin. That warmth, it seared all the way down to the bottom of your heart. A moment later, the agonizing screams in the living room faded away. The bodyguards dragged Xing Shen away like a dead dog, and Xingyao didn't let you catch another glimpse. She took your hand and led you into your bedroom. The heavy door clicked shut, completely sealing off the chaos outside. Xingyao pulled you onto the sofa, holding you close, wrapping her arms around you like you were a fragile child. It's all right now. The trash has been taken out. But you stayed completely silent. It wasn't until this very moment that an overwhelming wave of terror finally crashed over you. Your body began to tremble violently, completely out of control. Xingyao's hand, which had been softly stroking your hair, suddenly froze. She looked down, scrutinizing you in her arms. Your face was deathly pale, your eyes unfocused, and your body was desperately trying to shrink away from her. This fear, it wasn't because of Xing Shen. You were terrified of her. You just wanted to get as far away from Xingyao as possible. You were terrified of this woman who had just snapped someone else's bones for you. In that split second, she was so brutal, she looked exactly like a bloodthirsty demon crawling straight out of hell. You squeezed your eyes shut, but your mind was replaying that sickening, crisp crack. If one day you misbehaved, would she snap your neck just like that? Moog, Xingyao spoke abruptly. Her voice was low and dark. A violent shiver ran through your entire body, as you frantically tried to scramble off her lap. Miss Xing, I want to go take a shower. Don't move. Xingyao's arm tightened instantly, locking you in place like an iron vice. But she wasn't angry. Instead, in those dark eyes, there was a flash of helpless resignation, like she could see right through you. You're afraid of me, she asked it so bluntly, stripping away any chance for you to sugarcoat it. You didn't dare to answer, but your violently trembling body had already betrayed you. Are you scared of what I just did? Or was it the sound of her bones snapping? Xingyao reached out her hand, the exact same right hand that had just committed such brutal violence. Gently rested it against your cheek. You flinched instinctively. Xingyao's eyes darkened instantly, but she didn't pull her hand away. Moog. She rested her chin against your forehead. Her voice husky and magnetic. You are mine. You are the one destined to stand right by my side. So, you need to get used to scenes like this. You jerk your head up, staring at her in sheer disbelief. Get used to it? Get used to the violence and the bloodshed? Xingyao looks right into your terrified eyes. A cold, self-mocking smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. People out there call me the bodhisattva of the Xing family. They think just because I wear prayer beads, I actually believe in Buddha. She lets out a soft, dark chuckle, playing with the jade beads on your wrist. Her tone is deeply sinister, yet brutally honest. But I have never been a saint. I am a demon who crawled her way out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. If I'm not ruthless, I'll be the one who dies. This is the very first time she has laid her darkness bare right in front of you. She is a lunatic, a tyrant, an asura drenched in blood. But the very next second, Xingyao suddenly grabs your hand. She guides your trembling fingers, pressing them slowly against the left side of her chest, right through her clothes. You feel her steady, powerful heartbeat. I'm crazy, that's true. Xingyao stares deeply into your eyes, all of her hostility melting away, leaving nothing but a bottomless, dark obsession. But this hand of mine. She raises the exact same hand that just snapped someone's bones, and wraps it incredibly gently around the back of yours. This hand can kill. It can destroy absolutely everything. But it will never, ever be used to hurt you. Unless. She pauses for a moment, leaning in suddenly right next to your ear, her voice as light as a sigh. Unless we're in bed, and I want to hold you tight. You freeze completely. She reserves all her cruelty for the rest of the world. It saves her only tenderness, and total immunity, strictly for you. Xingyao lowers her head, leaving a soft kiss on the top of your hair. As long as you stay like a good boy right here in my arms. All the malice in this world. I'll block it all out for you. Even if God himself comes down. He'd have to ask for my permission first. To pay off their crushing debts. Your parents sold you overnight to the bipolar, hyperacusis suffering eldest daughter of a filthy rich family. The day after Xing Shen got his hand broken, the atmosphere in the Xing manor completely shifted. Early in the morning, as you walked down the stairs for breakfast just like always. You sharply noticed the eerie change in the air around you. Before this, the manor's servants were polite to you, sure, but it was a cold, purely mechanical politeness. In their eyes, you were just a disposable human cure, ready to be replaced at any moment. Just an object used to pay off a debt. But today, good morning, Mr. Mew. The servant cleaning the floor takes one look at you, immediately stops what they are doing, and backs away flat against the wall. They bow deeply, their head hanging incredibly low. They don't even dare to look you straight in the eye. That kind of posture. It's not just respect, it's absolute terror. You instinctively raise your hand to grab the banister. The cold, white jade Bodhi beads, wrapped 3 times around your wrist, slide down from gravity, clinking softly against the handrail. At that single crisp sound, every single person downstairs violently flinches. Even their breathing completely stops. You jerk your head down, staring hard at the 108 beads on your wrist. How the hell are these just prayer beads? Xingyao's words, seeing these beads is like seeing me, suddenly exploded in your ears. This was clearly her imperial seal. From this moment on, you were no longer just a punching bag, or a mere pawn. You were now the proxy of the family head, representing Xingyao herself. Right after that, the butler respectfully served breakfast. Mr. Mew, the misinstructed. That you're too thin. She had this bird's nest soup specially prepared for you. But looking at the lavish spread before you, you completely lost your appetite. Because you knew deep down, this wasn't a protective charm. It was a ticking time bomb. Xingyao had actually taken you, her greatest weakness, and painted a massive target on your back. This heavy, suffocating feeling lasted late into the night. Steam filled the bathroom. You stood in front of the mirror, just wanting to take off these annoying beads. Wearing them in the shower was just too inconvenient. So, you carefully unwound the loops, trying to slip them off. But right as the beads were about to slip past your fingertips. Click, the bathroom door suddenly opened. You jumped, your hand trembling as the prayer beads instantly slid back down your wrist. Xingyao was leaning against the doorframe. Her dark, piercing eyes cut right through the steam, staring dead at your hand. What are you doing? Her voice was ice cold, dripping with intense displeasure. You instinctively hid your hand behind your back. I just wanted to take a shower. Hearing this, Xingyao stepped closer, one step at a time, trapping you against the sink. Take a shower, then. She forcefully yanked your left arm forward, her thumb rubbing against the cold beads. Why take them off? It's inconvenient in the shower. But before you could even finish, she cut you off fiercely. Don't you dare take them off. Her gaze was dangerously dark. Her tone so domineering it left no room for argument. Muje, what I give you, unless I say so. It never leaves your body. The very next second, she lowered her head, her searing breath brushing against your ear. You wear them when you shower. You wear them when you sleep. Her hand slowly slid up your arm, sending a shiver down your spine. Even when we're doing other things, you keep them on. Xingyao let out a cold laugh and took a step back. Her eyes shamelessly swept over your body, like she was admiring a prized possession branded with her own name. I'll be checking them when you're done. Then, she pointed at the prayer beads on your wrist, a wicked smirk playing on her lips. If I find out you took them off behind my back, there are 108 beads on that string. If they're off your wrist for even 1 second, I'll make you feel exactly what 108 beads taste like. You instantly caught her twisted implication, and a violent shudder wrecked through your body. You clamped your other hand over your wrist, holding it tight until she finally turned and left. After you finished your shower, you walked out, but the moment Xingyao laid eyes on you, that heavy, dark hostility instantly clouded her features again. Come here, she tossed a tube of ointment onto the nightstand, the thud heavy in the quiet room. You obediently walked over, because you knew perfectly well. She was obsessing over the fact that Xing Shen had touched you today. For a jealous psycho with emotional misophobia like her, this was honestly worse than death. Take it off. She looked up, her tone leaving absolutely no room for argument. You clutched your collar tightly, hesitating. I already took a shower. I'm perfectly clean, I said. Her patience completely vanished in an instant, pure frustration flashing in her eyes. Do not make me tell you a third time. I want to check. Left with no choice, you untied the strings, letting your clothes slip off, revealing the scratches on your back from the rose thorns. These were from when Xing Shen grabbed you. Xingyao's eyes instantly darkened with sheer malice. The marks left by that damn hand. No matter how much you scrub, they just won't wash off. She squeezed out some of the ointment. Her fingers, coated in the cream, rubbed it into your skin with a brutal, almost venting force. You flinched from the pain. Bear it, she commanded coldly, her fingertips pressing heavily into your bruises, like she was scrubbing away a stubborn stain. Remember this pain. Next time someone dares to touch you, just grab a knife and stab them. I'll take the fall for it. Once she finished treating the wounds on your back, she suddenly yanked you forward, straddling your lap. This position was way too dangerous. You pressed your hands against her shoulders. You're done applying it. I am not done. Her gaze locked onto a faint red mark on your collarbone. That was exactly where Xing Shen's nails had scratched you. Right here. Her voice was so sinister it made you shiver. She touched you here, too. Then, she reached out and rubbed that red mark furiously, scrubbing so hard she was practically peeling the skin off. It hurts. Stop rubbing. My skin is going to tear. Good. A dark fire of jealousy raged in her eyes. Let this layer of skin tear off. Once new skin grows back, it will be clean. That was her twisted logic. She would rather destroy it entirely than leave behind another person's traces. After violently scrubbing for a moment, she finally stopped, because merely wiping it away could no longer satisfy her craving to cleanse you. Since it won't wash off, then I will just cover it up with a far deeper mark that belonged only to her, to bury it entirely. The very next second, Xingyao fiercely grabbed the back of your head, her lips pressing with lethal precision right onto that red scratch on your collarbone. You let out a gasp. This wasn't a kiss at all. It was a savage bite. Her teeth ground mercilessly against your flesh, sending a piercing, agonizing thrill through you that made your entire body tremble. She didn't stop until she tasted copper in her mouth, until that patch of skin turned a bruised, deep purple. Only then did she slowly let go. Xingyao lifted her head, wiping a smear of blood from the corner of her lips with her thumb, admiring her masterpiece with utter satisfaction. That faint red mark that once belonged to Xing Shen was completely gone, replaced by a fierce, dark purple bite mark. That was her mark. It's all clean now. She gave a low chuckle, her voice husky. Then, she leaned in close to your ear. Her warm breath brushed against your ear. Muje, got it memorized? Her tone was terrifyingly soft, but it felt like a curse, carving itself deep into your mind. This body, from the strands of your hair down to your heels, is mine to touch, and mine alone. If I ever see someone else's mark on you again, she nipped at your earlobe. I'll lock you up, so you can never, ever leave. Outside the Xing estate, the Beijing elite circle was blowing up. The ruthless heiress of the Xing family, all for a man, personally snapped her own cousin's wrist. The news had spread like wildfire across every major wealthy family overnight. Suddenly, everyone's eyes were fixed on you, the mysterious man in question. Countless greedy, prying eyes were watching you from beyond the high walls. But right now, you were in the bedroom, packing your bag. Even though Xingyao agreed to let you go back to campus for 2 days, she still wrapped a string of prayer beads around your wrist and forced you into a long-sleeved turtleneck, all just to cover up that deep purple bruise on your neck. Right at that moment, your phone suddenly buzzed. It was an unknown number. A local caller ID. You hesitated for a second, then picked up. To pay off their massive debts, your parents had traded you away overnight to this heiress. A woman suffering from severe bipolar disorder and extreme sound sensitivity. Hello, Mu-jae? It's Lin Shan. On the other end of the line was your roommate, his voice dripping with a sharp, jealous curiosity. Your hand froze. What's up? Oh, nothing major, Lin Shan chuckled on the other end. Just heard a little rumor that you're staying at a relative's place. He deliberately put heavy emphasis on the word relative. Then, he lowered his voice, barely hiding his malicious excitement. My dad told me last night, something crazy went down in the Xing family. Apparently, all over some guy. Hey, Mu-jae, that relative of yours wouldn't happen to be from the Xing family, would they? Your fingers tightened around your phone. Just as you thought, secrets never stay hidden for long. This kind of phishing was a blaring warning sign. You're overthinking it. You took a deep breath, forcing yourself to sound calm. I'm just doing some tutoring. I'll be back on campus soon. With that, you hung up straight away. Staring at the black screen, a deep, heavy wave of exhaustion washed over you. Your peaceful college life was probably gone forever. Who was that? A chillingly cold voice suddenly came from behind you. Xingyao had slipped into the room without you noticing. She was heading to the main family estate to deal with the people who had been sticking their noses where they didn't belong. And for this trip, she'd be gone for at least 2 days. Just a spam call. You shoved your phone back into your pocket, not daring to breathe a word about Lin Shan. Xingyao didn't call you out on it. She just walked right up to you. Her eyes landed on the cold, white jade prayer beads on your wrist. I'll be out of town on a business trip for the next couple of days. She reached out and gently straightened your collar. Her fingertips barely brushed against that mark on your neck. Even though I won't be around, my bodyguards will be keeping an eye on you. A fleeting flash of ruthlessness crossed her eyes. If anyone at school dares to mess with you, don't just take it. Throw these beads right at their face. If they break, it's on me. Your heart skipped a beat. Even though she was always forcing you, always controlling you, in moments like this, she was the only one who would fiercely stand between you and the rest of the world. I know, you replied softly. Stay safe out there. Xingyao raised an eyebrow, clearly pleased by your concern. She leaned in and pressed a firm, lingering kiss against your skin. Mu-jae, be a good boy while I'm gone. She pulled back, her thumb gently tracing the line of your cheek. A dark, meaningful glint flashed in her eyes. When I get back, I'm taking you somewhere special. You blinked in surprise. Where? You asked. But Xingyao just let out a low chuckle. You'll see when the time comes. It's a place that will let the whole capital know exactly who you belong to. With that, she turned on her heel and strode away. You touched the ice-cold prayer beads on your wrist, listening to the roar of her engine starting up downstairs. Somehow, the anxiety in your chest only grew stronger. You really thought Xingyao being out of town would give you a couple of days to breathe. By Tuesday at noon, the sun was shining brightly. You and your roommate, Zhao Mi, had just left the dining hall, heading back to the dorms for a quick nap. Not having to walk on eggshells to please that volatile woman all the time made even the air feel a little sweeter. Zhao Mi threw an arm around her shoulder and asked, Hey, Jay, since we don't have classes this afternoon, wanna head to the library to grab some seats? You were just about to nod. And suddenly, it was like someone had hit the pause button on the entire crowd around you. Then, a wave of unstoppable gasps broke out. Oh my god, whose car is that? A Maybach S680? What kind of crazy billionaire is on campus? Your heart plummeted into your stomach. A chilling wave of dread shot straight down your spine. You snapped your head up, only to see that ridiculously arrogant black Maybach parked right in front of the boys' dorm. Like a silent, hulking beast, its sleek black body gleamed with a cold, intimidating shine, radiating an overwhelming aura that screamed stay the hell away. Students were crowding all around it. Lin Shan was standing just a few feet away, staring at the car with a deeply conflicted look in his eyes. Your feet were glued to the ground. Didn't she say she was gone for 2 days? It hasn't even been 24 hours. A split second later, a bodyguard in a sharp suit marched straight over to you and bowed respectfully. Mr. Mu, the miss is waiting for you in the car. Crowd fell dead silent in an instant. Hundreds of eyes snapped to you like blinding spotlights. Your scalp prickled with pure panic. Before you even had a chance to explain anything to Zhao Mi, you simply ducked your head, and under the shocked stares of the entire crowd. Stepping quickly into the luxury car, bang, the door slammed shut. The tension inside the car was terrifyingly thick. Xingyao sat in the shadows of the backseat. She looked awful. Her face was clouded with a dark, explosive rage. Miss Xingyao, seeing her like this, your heart instantly tightened. What's wrong? Before you could even finish, Xingyao suddenly opened her eyes. Those bloodshot eyes locked dead onto you. The very next second, she lunged forward, grabbing the back of your neck and yanking you right to her. Caught completely off guard, you crashed face first into her chest. Her arms clamped around your waist like iron tongs, pinning you against her body. Immediately after, she lowered her head and buried her face deep into the crook of your neck. She took a heavy, greedy breath. That faint, warm herbal scent coming off your skin acted like a powerful sedative, instantly putting out the screaming madness in her mind. Xingyao's tense muscles finally began to relax. Eyes closed, she nuzzled her cheek against your warm skin, and let out a deep, satisfied sigh. Her voice was incredibly hoarse, like she was swallowing sand. I'm alive again. You were squeezed so tight you could barely breathe. And asked in a panic, Miss Xingyao, what happened? Is it about Xingxin? It's handled, Xingyao muttered into you. Her tone was dripping with disgust and irritation. Those old fools, too noisy. It turned out, she had been stuck at the main estate for a full day and night. Those extended family elders kept throwing their weight around, arguing endlessly over Xingxin's severed hand. The piercing wails. The fake begging. It nearly blew her eardrums out. Without you by her side, all those noises were endlessly magnified. Her head was splitting. She couldn't sleep at all. Even listening to your breathing through the necklace didn't help. The anxiety of seeing you but not being able to touch you only made her even more manic. So, she stayed up all night signing the papers, kicked every last one of them out, and rushed straight back here without stopping. All just to breathe you in. Moog. Xingyao lifted her head, resting her chin against your forehead. Her eyes were filled with a dark, obsessive possessiveness. I regret it. You froze. What? Xingyao's long fingers brushed against the necklace around your throat. I never should have let you move back to campus. Her tone was dark and heavy. Just hearing your voice is nowhere near enough. I want to hold you. I want to smell you. I want to be able to touch you, whenever and wherever I want. A terrible feeling rose in your chest. Miss Xingyao, we had a deal. The rules have changed. Xingyao cut you off instantly, like an unreasonable tyrant, tearing up the treaty all on her own. From today on, unless you're in class, every other second is mine. She leaned in close to your. She announced, pausing after every word. You must stay by my side, and never leave my sight for a single second. Even when I go to the office for a meeting, you have to follow me. Your eyes widened. To the office? How can I do that? That's where you work. Why not? Xingyao raised an eyebrow. Resuming that lazy yet domineering demeanor, she pulled you right back into her embrace. Closing her eyes comfortably, she said, I am the boss. What I say, goes. Give me one more word of nonsense, and I'll have someone cancel your entire schedule. You won't even have to go to class anymore. You instantly shut your mouth, leaning against this maniac's chest in utter despair. It's over. This time, you've really become her human keychain. The kind she will never, ever let go of. The core central business district of the capital. The Xing Group's headquarters towered into the clouds. This skyscraper symbolized the Xing family's unshakable dominance. At 2 in the afternoon, the first floor lobby was solemn and bustling, until the CEO's exclusive revolving doors slowly turned. Xingyao stepped inside. Instantly, today's lobby fell into an eerie, dead silence. The receptionist's phone dropped onto the desk with a clatter. A passing manager slipped, and almost lost his footing. Your parents, just to pay off their debts, had sold you overnight to this wealthy heiress, who suffers from bipolar disorder and hyperacusis. Because they saw that the notoriously cold and untouchable President Xing was actually holding hands with a boy, you were forced to walk by her side. Sensing you shrinking back, Xingyao squeezed your palm in displeasure. Why is your head down so low? Your voice was as quiet as a mosquito. Everyone is staring. Those gazes were far too intense, filled with shock, intense scrutiny, and the burning flames of gossip. You felt like a rare animal on display. Let them stare, Xingyao scoffed coldly. Instead, she domineeringly interlocked her fingers with yours, pulling you even closer into her arms. Are you ashamed to be seen? Head up, chest out, leading you by the hand. She walked straight toward the CEO's exclusive elevator without a sideways glance, completely ignoring the hundreds of eyes bulging out at you. The elevator doors closed, instantly shutting out the explosion of whispers behind you. The top floor, the CEO's office. This was the brain of the Xing Group, and the most well-informed hub for business intelligence in the entire capital. Every single person working here was an absolute top-tier elite. Good afternoon, President Xing. The chief secretary and her assistants greeted her at the elevator. But when they saw you, their standard professional smiles instantly froze on their faces. However, Xingyao merely gave an expressionless nod. Not only did she not let go of your hand, she didn't even bother to introduce you. That posture was exactly like a queen patrolling her territory with her most favored pet boy. She didn't need to explain anything to anyone, because as long as she was here, you were the rule. It wasn't until the two of you walked through those heavy office doors that the secretary's desk outside instantly erupted into chaos. Is that the legendary? Oh my god, President Xing is actually carrying his bag. Did I see that right? Was CEO Xing actually carrying that backpack? It's your first time stepping into this place that controls hundreds of billions in assets. It's huge, absolutely massive, with huge floor-to-ceiling windows on both sides. You can look out over the entire bustling city of Beijing, but inside, the black leather sofas and the massive solid wood desk give off a cold, imposing, and completely unwelcoming vibe. This is Xingyao's battlefield. But right now, There's a weird little corner in this battlefield. She walks over. Xingyao closes the door and casually tosses that pink backpack onto the couch. Then, she points next to her desk. You follow her gaze, and instantly freeze. Right next to that desk, which symbolizes absolute power, a completely out-of-place set of furniture has magically appeared. It's a cozy beige lounger, paired with a cute little white round table. There are no documents on the table. Instead, it's covered with freshly washed grapes, sliced cantaloupe, and even expensive imported snacks and yogurt. Right next to that pile of snacks, the ancient Chinese medical books you haven't finished reading are neatly stacked. This is basically a dedicated, exclusive pet corner. A luxury VIP edition, at that. You point at the corner, stammering, Is this for me? Who else? You think I'm going to sit there? Xingyao walks behind her desk and sits down, stating it as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. If you're too far away, I can't hear you breathing. It makes me anxious. Then, she points to the soft lounger, issuing an order to you with the exact same domineering tone she uses to command her subordinates to sign multi-billion-dollar contracts. You're going to sit right here. Whether you read, sleep, or eat, I don't care. She suddenly looks up, her deep eyes locking onto yours, her voice dripping with an undeniable possessiveness. But until I get off work, you are not allowed to go anywhere. You stare at this cozy, comfortable little cage, and then at the woman who has already started flipping through documents, yet still glances up every few seconds just to make sure you're still there. You can only let out a helpless sigh, hug your book, and walk over. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The main conference room of the Xing group. This is a top-level strategic decision-making meeting. Along both sides of the 10-meter-long conference table, sit all the core executives of the group. The air is so heavy and tense you could cut it with a knife. Is this the proposal you've been working on for 2 weeks? From the head of the table, Xingyao flips through the documents, her face completely void of emotion. With a sharp smack, she throws the thick proposal across the table. Fabricated data, flawed logic, and your risk assessment is nothing but pure garbage. Xingyao leans back in her chair, her gaze is cold and sharp as ice. The Xing group spends tens of millions on you people every year. Did I pay you just to sit here and tell me fairy tales? Cold sweat pours down the marketing director's forehead. He's literally shaking. CEO Xing, I am so sorry. We'll revise it immediately. The entire conference room is dead silent. Everyone looks like they want to bury their heads into the floor. However, what these terrified executives could never imagine in their wildest dreams, is that right beneath this very conference table, a symbol of authority and power. Hidden in the shadows of the draping tablecloth, an incredibly absurd and scandalous scene is taking place. You are sitting right beside Xingyao, because the chairs in the conference room are quite high, and she had specifically asked someone to adjust the angle, coupled with the fact that the executives don't even dare to look up. Surprisingly, no one has noticed that in the seat meant for her special assistant. You are currently hiding. You sit up perfectly straight, holding a medical book in your hands. But honestly, you haven't processed a single word, because your left hand has completely been taken hostage. Xingyao's right hand is resting in plain sight on the table, rhythmically tapping her fountain pen against the surface, inflicting absolute psychological torture on her subordinates. But her left hand is hanging beneath the table, dominantly holding onto yours. And she isn't just holding it innocently, either, she is playing with it. Exactly like how she idly plays with her expensive white jade prayer beads. Her fingertips slowly glide across the back of your hand, caressing your soft skin, stroke after stroke, tracing all the way from your wrist, right into your palm, before slipping between your fingers, intertwining them in a tight grip. Here, and here, redo all of this. Xingyao points coldly at the presentation on the screen, her voice incredibly harsh, and yet, right under the table, the same hand that was just dictating orders is now wickedly pinching your soft fingertips. She kneads the soft flesh with just the right amount of pressure, her nails occasionally scratching lightly against your palm, sending a tingling, ticklish sensation right up your arm. Your whole body is stiff. It's just too embarrassing, in a setting like this, with so many people around, and the atmosphere so incredibly serious. She was actually playing with your hand right under the table. Just then, Xingyao suddenly pressed her thumb hard into the webbing of your hand. Her grip was rough. You couldn't hold it in. A soft, barely audible gasp slipped from your throat. The sound was tiny, but in that dead silent conference room, it felt like a clap of thunder. The female VP sitting closest to you caught the sound, and actually looked up in confusion. Your heart nearly jumped out of your chest. Panicked, you instinctively tried to snatch your hand back. But the second you moved, Xingyao's grip violently tightened, locking onto you like an absolute vice. And at the exact same moment, what are you staring at? Xingyao slowly lifted her eyes, shooting a freezing, ruthless glare right at the VP. Her tone dropped to absolute zero. Is the project proposal written on my face? The poor VP flinched in terror, frantically snapping her head back down. And no, only then did Xingyao let out a cold, dismissive scoff. She pulled back her gaze. But right after that, under the table, she gave your palm a punishing squeeze, her fingertips slowly tracing circles over your skin. carrying a dark, silent warning. Try moving again. I dare you. Just to pay off their debts, your parents sold you off in the dead of night. Handed you straight over to a wealthy heiress suffering from bipolar disorder and severe sound sensitivity. You were completely helpless, left without a single tear to shed. But who would have thought? Xingyao actually seemed addicted to this little game. While casually listening to the presentations, she distractedly pried your fingers open, one by one, only to lace them shut again. It tickled, and it wasn't just your hand. Even your very heart was trembling. All you could do was quietly turn your head away. You glanced at her. Miss Xing, stop messing around. Xingyao senses you looking at her. She turns her head slightly, catching a glimpse of you in her peripheral vision. It is a view only she gets to see. The irritation brought on by her subordinates is instantly soothed. The corner of her mouth twitches in a barely noticeable smile. Then, she takes things a step further. She lets go of your hand, only to slide her fingers up your wrist, slipping into the wide cuff of your hoodie. Her warm fingers press against the sensitive skin on the inside of your forearm, trailing all the way up, until she grabs hold of your arm. A shiver runs through your whole body. You nearly jump right out of your chair. That is enough. Right at that moment, Xingyao suddenly speaks up, cutting off the executive's presentation. She pulls her hand out of your sleeve and places it back on the table, instantly returning to her cold, untouchable demeanor. We are done here for today. She stands up, looking down at the room full of relieved executives. Her voice is ice cold. I want to see the new proposal by tomorrow morning. Meeting adjourned. With that said, she turns around, pulls your trembling body up, and strides right out of the conference room. It isn't until you are back in the CEO's office and the door clicks shut that you finally let out a long breath, collapsing onto the sofa. Xingyao, you went way too far. You are so flustered you call her by her first name, holding up your hand that is flushed red from her grip. We were in a meeting. There were so many people in there. Xingyao walks over to the sofa, leaning down to trap you between her arms and the backrest. Seeing you all riled up, she finally stops hiding the teasing smile in her eyes. Too far? She gently grabs the hand she had been playing with for the past half hour. She brings it to her lips for a soft kiss, her tone laced with absolute shamelessness. But if I wasn't holding onto you, that folder just now wouldn't have hit the desk. It would have smashed right into that idiot's head. Moog. She rests her forehead against yours, letting out a low chuckle. You saved her life. Think of the good karma. It is a sunny afternoon in the CEO's office. The weather is beautiful, but you are bored out of your mind. Ever since you became her little human pendant, Xingyao's work efficiency has been terrifyingly high, leaving you stuck keeping her company like a grade schooler. Just then, Moog, her crisp, cool voice suddenly breaks the silence. You snap your book shut instantly, like a little soldier on standby. Here, what is wrong? A headache? But Xingyao just looks up from her mountain of paperwork. Her gaze lands dead center on the sweet tangerines in the fruit bowl right in front of you. I want a tangerine. She says it with absolute entitlement. Her tone is flat as if she were giving a multi-million-dollar business order. You just stare at her. Then eat one. Do you really need to report something that small to me? Who knew Xingyao would actually raise both her hands? Left hand holding a contract, right hand gripping a fountain pen. She waves them in front of you. My hands are full. She kept her words brief, immediately gesturing toward the fruit platter with her chin. Her eyes gave a clear command. Peel it for me. The corner of your mouth twitched wildly. Is her hand broken? Or has she completely forgotten how to take care of herself? You tried to reason with her. Miss Xing, you could just put the pen down first. I can't put it down. Xingyao leaned back in her chair and began acting shamelessly with a perfectly straight face. This is a multi-billion-dollar project. Every second counts. If you don't peel it for me, I'll just starve. And if I starve myself into getting an ulcer, you're the one paying the medical bills. You let out a frustrated laugh at her ridiculous logic, left with no choice but to surrender. You picked up an orange, peeling back the golden skin, and meticulously tore off every single white string of pith until the slices were completely clean. You offered her the peeled fruit. It's really sweet. But Xingyao just lowered her gaze, glancing at your hand hovering right in front of her. She didn't even reach out to take it. My hands are dirty. Xingyao frowned, coming up with an even more absurd excuse. I just signed papers. They're covered in germs. You took a deep breath, silently chanting to yourself 3 times. She's a patient. She's a patient. Then what do you want me to do? The very next second, Xingyao leaned forward slightly, parting her beautifully thin lips. A wicked, expectant gleam flashed behind her glasses. Feed me. Your hand gave a violent jerk. This is way too intimate. Looking at her stubborn posture, keeping her mouth open, ready to wait until the end of the world if you didn't feed her. You had no choice but to compromise. Coaxing her like a toddler, you pulled off a wedge of orange and carefully brought it to her lips. Say ah. Xingyao played along perfectly, taking the juicy piece of fruit into her mouth. Is it sweet? You asked expectantly. She chewed twice, staring intensely right into your eyes. It's all right. Give me another. And just like that, a bizarre scene began to unfold. The all-powerful head of the Xing Corporation, was lounging like a total invalid, happily enjoying her hand-feeding services. Until the very last wedge of orange, you spaced out for a split second, and pushed it in a bit too deep. As a result, the exact moment Xingyao closed her mouth, she didn't just take the orange. She sucked the very tip of your thumb right in along with it. A warm, wet sensation instantly enveloped your fingertip. You instinctively tried to yank your hand back. Miss Xing, my hand. However, Xingyao didn't let go. Not only did she refuse to release it, she actually used the tip of her tongue to trace your tender finger that had accidentally trespassed into her territory. Giving it a soft lick, the texture of her tongue scraped right across the sensitive pad of your finger. Instantly, a massive jolt of electricity shot straight up to the top of your skull. Your entire body went weak. And right after that, Xingyao applied a little pressure with her teeth on that soft fingertip, giving it a deliberate, teasing nip. That was both a punishment and a tease. As you pulled back, a gleam of smug pleasure flashed in Xingyao's eyes. She finally showed some mercy and let go, but her eyes stayed fixed on your soaking wet fingers. Her throat bobbed slightly. Just as expected, she licked the lingering orange juice from the corner of her lips, her voice husky and low. This orange isn't as sweet as you. Just as the tension between you two was thick enough to cut with a knife, two urgent knocks rang out. Next second, the office door was violently pushed open. Boss Xing, I need you for this urgent document. Xingyao's special assistant, Xu Yang, barged in frantically, clutching a stack of files. A split second later, she witnessed a scene that nearly ended her entire career. Behind a massive desk, their notoriously cold and untouchable CEO had gleaming wet lips and a gaze as hungry as a wolf. And right in front of her, you were still holding an orange peel. The very finger that had just escaped the CEO's mouth was hanging in the air, soaking wet. Clearly having just endured some unspeakable baptism, the air fell dead silent. Xu Yang's feet were nailed to the floor. Her mind went completely blank. Her hands trembled. Crash. Highly classified, priceless business documents scattered across the floor like snowflakes. I'm so dead. She seemed to have walked in on her boss's intimate moment. Xu Yang stammered, wishing she could gouge her own eyes out on the spot. I didn't see anything. This orange is so white. These documents are so sweet. What kind of nonsense was she babbling? The smile on Xingyao's face vanished instantly. She slowly and elegantly pulled a tissue, wiped the corner of her mouth, and looked up. Her freezing gaze shot toward the door like daggers. Xu Yang. Her voice was ice cold, dripping with the terrifying hostility of pure, frustrated desire. Do you want to be shipped off to mine in Africa? Xu Yang shuddered violently. Her survival instinct maxed out. I'm so sorry, boss. I'll get lost right now. She frantically scrambled to pick up the files, and rolled out of the office like a bowling ball, thoughtfully shutting the door behind her. The room fell quiet again. You covered your face and buried yourself into the sofa, letting out a desperate groan. I can't show my face ever again. Watching you hide like an ostrich, Xingyao's mood inexplicably improved. She actually reached out, scooped you up from the sofa, and pulled you back into her arms. What are you afraid of? She pinched the very finger that still bore her teeth marks, brought it to her lips, kissed it again, and said with absolute confidence, I was eating. Who dares to have a problem with that? To pay off their debts, your parents sold you overnight to this wealthy heiress, who suffered from bipolar disorder and extreme sound sensitivity. But Xingyao clearly had no intention of getting back to work. Let's go. She stood up and buttoned her suit jacket, returning to her immaculate, elite appearance, as if she wasn't a shameless rogue from just a moment ago. You followed closely behind her. As you walked out of the office, it was dead silent outside, with countless eyes scanning you like radar. Especially Xu Yang, the one who just caused all that trouble. She was so terrified she basically buried her head in her keyboard. The CEO's private elevator arrived. Xingyao grabbed your hand and pulled you inside. The heavy metal doors slowly slid shut, completely cutting you both off from the outside world. In an instant, it was just the two of you. The elevator began its descent. Watching the glowing red numbers tick down, you finally let out a heavy sigh of relief. Thank God we're finally out of that awkward situation. But before you could even fully relax, the silent woman standing next to you suddenly spun around. She lunged and grabbed you. You let out a sharp gasp. Your back slammed hard against the freezing metal wall with a heavy thud. Xingyao slammed one hand against the wall right next to your ear, trapping you in the tight corner. Miss Xing, your heart practically stopped in your chest. You were completely baffled. Wasn't everything just fine back in the office? Why the sudden mood swing? But Xingyao didn't say a single word. She just tilted her head up slightly. And in those dark, intense eyes, a raging fire of pure jealousy was burning. Her gaze slowly raked over every inch of your still blushing cheeks. And then, it dropped to the finger she had just had in her mouth. That assistant back there, she finally spoke, her voice dangerously low. It was dripping with a thick, completely irrational bitterness. She was looking at you. You froze on the spot. Wait, Xu Yang? Isn't it perfectly normal for her to just glance over? But Xingyao narrowed her eyes. Her tone was dripping with insane jealousy. She stared at you for 3 whole seconds. Her eyes were practically glued to you. The very next second, she reached out and tightly gripped your chin, forcing you to look up at her. Moog, your face was so red just now. You looked so. She swallowed hard, refusing to say the word gorgeous. That look was supposed to be for her eyes only. But that damn Shuyang just had to be there. And she saw it. Did she think you looked pretty? The more Xingyao thought about it, the more furious she got. The dark obsession in her eyes was completely spilling over. Was she thinking about how easy it would be to take advantage of you? You stared at her in utter disbelief. What kind of twisted logic was that? Miss Xing, please be reasonable here. Assistant Shu was terrified. She was looking at me like she was watching a horror movie. She didn't think I looked pretty. She was terrified you were going to murder her to keep her quiet. I don't care, but Xingyao wasn't listening to a single word. In the mind of a lunatic, there is no logic. There is only possession. She looked at you, and I won't allow that. She suddenly leaned in hard, her nose pressing right up against yours. Your breaths mixed in the tight space. You are mine, whether you look pretty or not. I'm the only one allowed to know. I feel so cheated. You were left utterly speechless. Before you could even try to calm down this jealous maniac, Xingyao suddenly glanced up at the elevator screen. 35, 34, 30 seconds left, she muttered out of nowhere. What? You didn't even have time to process what she meant. Just collecting some interest. Before her words even faded, Xingyao's kiss came crashing down heavily. This time, it wasn't a tease. It was a deep, punishing kiss. Desperate, and completely ravaging, she pinned one hand against the wall, her other hand gripping the back of your head tightly. Leaving you absolutely nowhere to run. Her soft lips forcefully parted yours, driving deep and claiming every inch of you without holding back. You could only surrender. The wall behind you was freezing cold, but the body pressed against yours was burning hot. The elevator was dropping fast, the weightlessness mixing with dizzying shortness of breath. 20, 15, 10. Floors kept counting down, but Xingyao showed absolutely no sign of stopping. The intense sounds of your kissing were enough to make anyone blush. It was as if she wanted to completely devour every trace of the stares you got from those people outside. Devouring it all back through this one kiss. The air was getting thinner and thinner. You were on the verge of suffocating. Finally, just 2 seconds before the elevator doors opened, Xingyao broke the kiss, but she didn't step back. She stayed pressed against your swollen lips, her thumb wiping roughly at the corner of your mouth. Her eyes were terrifyingly dark. Remember this, she panted heavily, her voice incredibly husky and raw. From now on, you only look like this for me. Ding! The elevator doors slid open, and the bright lights of the main lobby instantly flooded in. Right outside stood a group of department managers, waiting to give their reports. But, the moment those doors opened, what they saw was their famously cold, untouchable boss Xing, with her back facing them, taking her sweet time straightening out her clothes. And right behind her, leaning weakly against the wall, were you, lips flushed and swollen, eyes totally dazed. Boss Xing? The managers exchanged terrified glances. They didn't dare to step inside. Just then, Xingyao turned around. Every trace of fiery passion vanished from her face in an instant, completely shifting back into that cold, unapproachable elite CEO. She spat out 2 freezing words. Move aside. Then, she grabbed your hand, and strode out of the elevator without looking back, leaving behind nothing but the faint, lingering scent of oranges in the air. However, the peace of the CEO's office was soon shattered by the suffocating smell of strong cologne. 3 p.m. Afternoon tea break. There was a knock on the office door, but the person who walked in was a completely new face. A young man wearing a tight, tailored suit, with a pretty boy face. This was Zhang Ying, the newly transferred executive secretary, riding high on his top-tier degree and decent looks. He was absolutely convinced that he would be Xingyao's special exception. I mean, come on. She was a woman, right? What woman doesn't easily fall for a handsome guy? What was so great about that little nobody cowering in the corner anyway? So, carrying a tray, and clicking his shiny leather shoes, Zhang Ying strolled in, thinking he looked smooth as hell. His gaze cut right past you as you sat reading on the couch. In your eyes, you're nothing but a pet kept in a cage, completely harmless. His real target was the woman behind that desk. Boss Xing. Zhang Ying lowered his voice, faking a deep, magnetic tone. Special Assistant Shu is tied up right now. Here is the coffee you asked for. But he didn't set the cup down. Instead, he strolled right around the desk, leaning in close to Xingyao. As he closed the distance, a thick, eye-watering stench of cheap cologne instantly choked the air. Xingyao frowned sharply, the tip of her pen ripped right through the paper. Before she could even say a word, Zhang Ying's foot suddenly slipped. Ah, he cried out in fake surprise. His body fell straight toward her, the coffee in his hand tilting right along with him. According to his little script, Boss Xing would definitely catch him. Then he could orchestrate some physical contact. But he never, ever expected. The very second the coffee spilled, not only did she not catch him, she looked at him like he was a walking plague, violently shoving her chair back a good 2 feet. She moved so fast, it was like she was dodging a ghost. Crash. The coffee cup shattered on the floor. Boiling hot liquid splashed all over Zhang Ying. While Xingyao, aside from 2 tiny drops on her pants, she was completely spotless. Boss Xing. Zhang Ying was sprawled out on the floor, looking absolutely pathetic. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Let me wipe that up for you. As he spoke, he reached out, trying to touch her. Your parents, desperate to pay off their debts, sold you overnight to a wealthy heiress suffering from bipolar disorder and severe sensory sensitivity. Don't move. Xingyao snapped coldly. Her words felt like they were dragged straight out of a freezer. Zhang Ying's hand instantly froze in mid-air. Xingyao stood up. She glared down at him, her face twisting with pure, undisguised physical disgust. She pinched her nose, her brows locked in a tight frown. Did you fall into a vat of cheap perfume and marinate in it? Her voice was dangerously low, cutting right to the bone. This cheap, toxic-smelling garbage smells worse than a damn sewer. Zhang Ying's face instantly flushed beet red. Boss Xing, this is a limited edition. I don't give a damn what edition it is. Xingyao had zero patience for his bullshit. She was literally gagging. Your stench is way too loud for my nose. In the very next second, Xingyao pointed straight at the door, her tone leaving absolutely no room for argument. Get the hell out, right now, immediately. Go to HR and collect your final paycheck. Don't you ever let me catch a whiff of that garbage again. Zhang Ying was completely dumbfounded. His carefully crafted plan to sleep his way to the top, actually ruined by a bottle of cologne. I said get out. A dangerous, manic rage flickered in her eyes. Or do I need to have security drag you out? Zhang Ying shuddered violently at her murderous glare. He scrambled to his feet and bolted out the door. The office finally fell quiet. But that eye-watering stench still lingered in the air. Xingyao just stood there. Her expression was absolutely terrifying. Every manic nerve in her body was screaming. Filthy. Just absolutely filthy. Right at that moment, holding your little celadon jar, you walked over from the corner. You had watched that whole scene play out. And surprisingly, instead of thinking Xingyao was being a ruthless monster, you kinda wanted to give her a round of applause. So, you tentatively called out to her, Miss Xing? Instantly, Xingyao whipped around. The moment she saw you, those dark, vicious eyes finally found their focus. Without a word, she closed the distance in long strides, grabbed your wrist, and yanked you right up against her. The very next second, like an addict going through desperate withdrawals, she violently dipped her head, burying her entire face deep into the crook of your neck. Her hair tickled your skin, but she just pressed in closer, taking a deep, desperate breath against your neck. Her nose rested against your warm skin, inhaling that clean, crisp scent, mixed with the faint warmth of sunlight. Finally, the sickening stench of that guy's cologne started to fade away. You could feel the tense wrinkles in her brain slowly smoothing out. Muffled against your collarbone, she let out a low sigh, rubbing against you like a massive, grumpy dog that just got bullied outside and needed some comfort. You always smell so good. Miu Jie, how are you even real? Why are you so damn sweet? Held tight in her crushing embrace, you felt a side of her she only ever showed to you. This raw, desperate vulnerability. Slowly, you raised your hand, and gently patted her back. In the past, you used to think Xingyao's extreme germophobia and sound sensitivity were absolute torture. But today, watching her ruthlessly kick that guy out without a second thought, and hearing her say that you were the only one who smelled good, the corners of your lips betrayed you, curling up into a tiny, uncontrollable smile. Suddenly, you realized, this psyche's obsession with cleanliness actually made you feel incredibly safe. At least in her world, apart from you, everyone else was absolute trash. This kind of toxic, exclusive favoritism actually felt pretty damn amazing. Friday, Xing Group was hit by a brutal, incredibly rare stock market crash. Thanks to some sudden policy shifts overseas, their stock plummeted off a cliff within the first 30 minutes of trading. It was the perfect trigger for a full-blown manic episode. Inside the CEO's office, the atmosphere was so heavy it felt like breathing ice. Xingyao slammed the intercom down with a deadpan face, with enough force to shatter the plastic. Her eyes were completely bloodshot, glowing with a terrifying rage. The sheer murderous aura rolling off her had Assistant Shu's stomach tied in knots. Get out! Xingyao squeezed her eyes shut, violently rubbing her throbbing temples. Her voice was a harsh rasp. If you don't give me a solution in 10 minutes, the entire risk management team is fired. Assistant Shu practically tripped over himself running out the door. The massive office fell dead silent, save for the sound of her ragged, heavy breathing, and the thick smell of gunpowder in the air. Sitting quietly on the plush sofa, you couldn't process a single word of your book. You just watched Xingyao, teetering dangerously on the edge of a breakdown. If this was the old you would have curled up in the corner like a frightened little mouse by now, absolutely terrified of getting caught in the crossfire. But now, spending time together these past few days, you vaguely picked up on a pattern. Whenever that crazy woman, Xingyao, is dealing with you, she seems to have a very specific reaction mechanism. Give her a specific trigger, and you get a very specific response. Your eyes drift down to Xingyao's messy, yet incredibly soft-looking hair. Should you give it a try? After all, the worst that could happen is getting screamed at. You're completely used to that by now. So, you take a deep breath, and set your book down. You stand up, keeping your footsteps incredibly light. You walk over to her desk. Xingyao is currently drowning in a massive headache and a seriously murderous rage. Sensing someone getting close, her eyes snap open. The vicious glare in her eyes hasn't even faded yet. What the? But before she can even finish the sentence, a warm hand, already boldly, and a bit hesitantly, rests gently on the very top of her head. Xingyao's voice cuts off instantly. Her entire body goes completely rigid. Her pupils shrink. That's her head. It's like touching a tiger's tail. The reverse scale of a vicious dragon. Besides her late father, absolutely no one has ever dared to lay a hand on her head. Your own heart is pounding out of your chest. The feeling right under your palm is impossibly soft. Miss Xing, you fight down the desperate urge to snatch your hand back, and gather your courage. Following the flow of her hair, you gently stroke down from the top of her head to the nape of her neck. Just like you're petting a giant, bristling cat. Don't be mad. Your voice is incredibly soft, carrying the gentle tone you'd use to coax a little kid. The stock prices will bounce back. Getting angry just gives you a headache. It's just not worth it. Once, twice, your hand glides right through her hair, your fingertips gently massaging her painfully tense scalp. Xingyao's hopelessly rigid back actually starts to melt, at a speed you can see with your own eyes. She totally relaxes. The piercing, screaming alarm in her brain is forcibly muted by this incredibly gentle touch. The feeling is just like having a pair of hands glide right down your spine, smoothing out every single bristling hair on your body. God, it feels good. It's a deeply intoxicating, tingling warmth rising straight from her soul. The bloodshot fury in Xingyao's eyes slowly begins to fade, replaced instead by a hazy, unfocused glow. She actually didn't smack your hand away. She didn't explode in anger, either. In fact, she slowly flutters her eyes closed, and leans back in her chair. She even goes as far as nuzzling her head right into the palm of your hand. That posture looks nothing like the man-eating tyrant from just a second ago. She's clearly just a giant feline who feels really, really good being petted. Just a massive cat begging for more affection. A low, lazy purr slips right out of her throat. Her voice is husky, laced with just a hint of total greed. A little to the left. Pet it a couple more times. You stare at the woman sitting right in front of you, eyes blissfully shut in pure enjoyment. Your own eyes are practically bulging out of your head in sheer shock. It actually worked. It turns out all that insane, tyrannical rage that absolutely terrifies everyone else can actually be entirely diffused by you, just by giving her a couple of little head pats. You look down at your hand, and then look back at Xingyao, who's acting as docile as a giant house cat. In this very moment, it suddenly dawns on you. Before, you always felt like a bird trapped in a cage. A mere plaything she can manipulate at will. But now, you realize you were wrong. In this twisted and sick relationship, you aren't powerless at all. You're actually holding the remote control to Xingyao. Sure, she's crazy. She's a vicious dragon. A weapon of massive destruction. But you're the only one who can put the safety catch on that weapon. If you wanted to, you could even make this vicious dragon lay at your feet and wag its tail. Yeah, just like that. Pet me a bit more. The corners of your mouth can't help but curl up, a flash of cunning light in your eyes. So, you apply a bit more pressure, massaging her with just the right amount of force. Miss Xing, does that feel good? You ask softly. Your parents, just to pay off their debts, sold you overnight to this wealthy heiress suffering from bipolar disorder and severe sound sensitivity. Xingyao hums lazily in response, even reaching out to wrap her arms around your waist, burying her face into your stomach. More. You look down at her. Only this time, the fear in your eyes is entirely gone, replaced by the look of a beast tamer watching their own wild animal. Full of calm and confidence. It turns out, taming this powerful heiress isn't nearly as hard as you thought. You just have to pet her the right way. The setting sun casts its golden glow through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Xingyao is still holding onto your waist, her face buried against your stomach. Breathing evenly, that 30-minute head massage had completely relaxed the nerves she'd kept tense all day. You look down at the woman in your arms. This is a golden, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Right now, Xingyao is like a well-fed lioness, totally blissed out from being petted. If you don't make your move now, when will you? You take a deep breath, quickly putting your thoughts together. After observing her these past few days, you've realized one crucial thing. Going head-to-head with Xingyao is useless. Playing the victim is useless, too. The only thing that works is making her think it benefits her. Miss Xing, you soften your voice, your fingers gently rubbing the pressure points behind her ears. Are you feeling a bit better now? Does your head still hurt? Xingyao gives a lazy hum in response. She tightens her grip around your waist, as if to show her satisfaction. It's fine, keep going. You obediently continue the massage, letting out a seemingly unintentional sigh. Actually, I've been thinking about something lately. I feel like my medical skills just aren't good enough yet. You say, sounding completely sincere. Your voice carrying a mix of self-reflection and genuine concern for her. Even though this simple massage can temporarily ease your pain, it only treats the symptoms, not the root cause. Your bipolar disorder and severe sound sensitivity are chronic conditions. Just making herbal medicines and giving massages, it'll be really hard to cure them completely. Xingyao finally opens her eyes. She slowly sits up straight, those deep eyes narrowing slightly, scrutinizing you. So, you crouched down, tilted your head up. So, I'd like to request. Resume my internship at the affiliated hospital. The moment the words left your mouth, Xingyao's expression visibly darkened. The fragile warmth you had just built up vanished in an instant, replaced by her familiar, chilling aura. You want to leave? She scoffed coldly, gripping your chin. Muje, was this your whole plan when you were cozying up to me just now? I'm not leaving, I'm going for advanced studies. Not giving her a chance to explode, you quickly blurted out the excuse you'd already prepared. Did you know? The traditional medicine department at the affiliated hospital recently brought in a senior expert. He knows a lost acupuncture technique called the 13 ghost needles. It's specifically used to treat neurological conditions and severe, stubborn headaches. You started bluffing. Well, not entirely bluffing. Because it was actually true. That specific acupuncture method requires hands-on clinical practice to master. If I can learn it, maybe I could completely cure your headaches. It might even relieve your extreme sensitivity to sound. You immediately grabbed her sleeve, your eyes shining with absolute sincerity, as if to say, I'm doing all this for you. Miss Xing, I really want to heal you. I want to stop you from suffering like that. But if I just stay in this office all day peeling oranges for you, acting as your personal body pillow, my medical skills are just going to waste away. If that happens, I'll truly become nothing more than a useless human remedy for you. I want to be a doctor who can genuinely help you, not just some pretty little pet meant only for your amusement. This speech was incredibly heartfelt and logically flawless. After you finished speaking, you held your breath, nervously awaiting her judgment, but the office fell into a dead, suffocating silence. Xingyao didn't say a word. She just stared at you quietly, her pitch black eyes like two bottomless wells, making it impossible to read her mood. 2 seconds, 3 seconds, time itself felt painfully stretched out. Just when you thought you had blown the act and were about to give up entirely, a very faint, soft laugh suddenly slipped from Xingyao's throat. It wasn't a cold sneer, nor was it mocking. Instead, it carried a hint of surprise, a touch of playful amusement, and even a slight trace of genuine admiration. Then, Xingyao slowly reached out, her long, elegant fingers gently brushing against your cheek. Muje. The very next second, she leaned in close, her exquisite face pressed right up against yours, the tips of your noses practically touching. Those dark, usually brooding eyes were now shimmering with tiny fragments of light, looking exactly like a child who had just found a fascinating new toy. How did I never notice before that this sweet little mouth of yours is such a smooth talker? You felt a sudden pang of guilt, your eyes darting away. I'm telling the truth, the absolute truth. Xingyao just raised an eyebrow, looking at you with a teasing, half smile, exposing your little scheme with a single sentence. So you're doing all this just to cure me? Or is it just that you don't want to stay here and keep me company while I work? Or maybe, her fingers traced down your cheek, softly pinching the pulse at the side of your neck, fluttering from your nerves. Do you think I've been spoiling you a bit too much lately? So, you've learned how to play mind games with me? You freeze up completely. She saw right through you. In front of this cunning corporate fox, your little tricks are nothing but child's play. You open your mouth to defend yourself, but Xingyao presses a finger to your lips. She isn't angry, she just watches you, terrified, yet still trying so hard to push back against her. Strange, twisted sense of pleasure actually swells up inside her. The old you would only cry, only tremble, but the you right now? You're thinking, you're calculating, you're actually trying to use her weaknesses to get what you want. You've become so much more alive, even carrying a little spark of cunning that she finds absolutely intoxicating. Playing mind games. I like that. Xingyao lets go, leaning back into her chair. Her tone is lazy, yet incredibly dangerous. Since you want to go learn that Ghost Gate acupuncture stuff. She pauses, her eyes slowly sweeping over your desperately hopeful face. Finally, a calculating smirk tugs at the corner of her mouth. I can let you do that. Your eyes instantly light up. Really? Don't get too excited just yet. Xingyao raises a hand, slowly dragging out the catch. I am a businesswoman. I don't make deals where I lose out. You want to go back to your internship? You want to leave my sight and go to the hospital? Her eyes darken. It's the look of a hunter watching her prey step right into the trap. Fine, but you have to be able to pay the price. The last sliver of the setting sun dips below the horizon, but your heart is completely in your throat. You instinctively clutch at your collar, staring warily at the calculating fox sitting across from you. I don't have any money to pay you back right now. Internship pay is really low. Xingyao looks at you acting like a little penny pincher, and lets out a soft laugh. Who said I wanted your money? She sits up straight, her slender fingers tapping lightly against the mahogany desk. It sounds exactly like she's hammering out the final clauses of a contract. What I want is, after sales service. After sales? You stare at her blankly. I can let you go to the hospital for your internship. To go learn whatever the hell that acupuncture technique is. Xingyao's gaze grows heavy. She holds up a single finger, her tone leaving zero room for argument. Every day at 5 p.m. I don't care what you're doing. Unless someone is literally dying on the operating table, you will be downstairs at my company right on the dot. I don't wait for anyone. You instantly nod like your life depends on it. No problem. I get off work at exactly 5 anyway. I'll definitely be on time. Honestly, as long as she lets you out. Never mind 5 o'clock. You'd sprint back by 4:30. Condition number 2. Xingyao leans in close. Every night when you get back, I want to inspect you. You blink, caught off guard. Inspect. What? Like, my work notes? Xingyao just looks at you with an expression that says, are you actually this dense, or? She shot you a playfully innocent look, then reached out her hand. Her fingertips traced slowly down your collar, coming to a rest on your slender collarbone. Just checking your body, she murmured, to see if you brought back any scents you shouldn't have. She remembered the scent of disinfectant on you that day, mixed with the perfume of that female classmate. A dark shadow instantly flashed across her eyes. Your parents, just to pay off their debts, had sold you overnight to this rich heiress, a woman suffering from bipolar disorder and severe sound sensitivity. Hospitals, she scoffed, are far too crowded and messy. They're full of germs, too. I need to make absolutely sure you're still clean. That you still smell exactly like me. If I catch even the slightest whiff of someone else on you. She smirked. A wicked smile crossed her face. You know exactly what will happen. I'll throw you in the bathtub, and personally scrub a layer of your skin right off. You suppressed a violent shiver, suddenly remembering that dark green bottle of body wash from that night. I know, you replied nervously. I'll be careful, and another thing. But Xingyao's fingers didn't pull away. Instead, they slid up to gently grip your chin. I also need to check your heart. To check if your mind wandered, during the 8 hours you were away from me. To check your heart rate. The very next second, she leaned in close, your noses practically touching. Your breaths mingled in the air. To check if you missed me. You felt a wave of helplessness. This was way too cheesy. This was clearly just her sick need for control. How do you even check something like that anyway? Seeing your flushed face, the amusement in Xingyao's eyes deepened. That's for me to know, she whispered, pulling her hand back. She leaned back against her chair, instantly returning to her usual arrogant, untouchable posture. You just need to be good and cooperate. So, do we have a deal, or not? You gritted your teeth. Even though her terms were absolute torture, this was still a massive step forward. For the sake of your freedom, and to learn the Ghost Gate 13 needles, you had to risk it. Deal, you blurted out, nodding vigorously. Terrified she might change her mind. Then it's settled. I'll report to the hospital tomorrow morning. With that said, you turned on your heel, ready to bolt. Hold on. Xingyao's lazy drawl stopped you dead in your tracks. You froze. You slowly turned back. Is there something else? Since the contract is sealed, shouldn't you pay a little deposit? Xingyao sat in her executive chair, a throne of multi-billion-dollar power, propping her head up with one hand. With her other hand, she gently tapped her index finger against her perfectly shaped lips. Her meaning was crystal clear. Your eyes went wide. A deposit? Xingyao raised a perfectly arched eyebrow. Unapologetic as always. I need to collect a little interest up front. Just to comfort my poor, wounded heart, since we'll be spending time apart. Now then, come over here, and pay your deposit. Looking at this woman, who was clearly so domineering yet insisting on playing the victim. You had no choice but to resign yourself to your fate. After all, you were in her office. You dawdled over to her, making your way around the desk. As you stopped in front of her, Xingyao didn't move an inch. She just watched you at her leisure, like a queen waiting for her tribute. You took a deep breath and leaned in. Closing your eyes, you planted a quick, fleeting kiss on the corner of her lips. There, happy now? But Xingyao just narrowed her eyes. Clearly, she was far from satisfied with such a pathetic little deposit. Mujay, she sneered. Are you throwing scraps at a beggar? You call that interest? That doesn't even cover a fraction of the principal. Before she even finished speaking, she suddenly reached out. She grabbed the back of your head, forcefully pulling you down before you even had a chance to pull away. You were forced to bend over again, with absolutely no room to escape. Xingyao tilted her head up, her soft lips claiming yours with absolute dominance. She sealed your mouth perfectly, aggressively prying your lips apart. Her tongue drove deep inside, filled with a fierce, possessive hunger, like she wanted to devour you whole. She ravaged your mouth, stealing every single ounce of your breath. Xingyao didn't let go until you were dizzy and completely out of breath. But she still didn't let you pull away. Instead, she rested her forehead heavily against yours. Her thumb wiped slowly across your swollen, wet lips. Looking at your hazy, dazed eyes. Satisfied, dark fire burned in her gaze. Now that is a deposit. Her voice was incredibly husky, dripping with a lingering, undeniable lust. Stamped. And approved. Off you go, my Dr. Mew. And just like that, with Xingyao's official seal of approval, you finally went back to your life as an intern, commuting between the campus and the hospital. Even though every single day at exactly 5 p.m., just like Cinderella. You had to rush back to report to the Xing Corporation Tower, and then endure those intense full-body checkups that left your face burning red every night. But to you, this was already a rare breath of sweet freedom. However, you soon figured out that this kind of freedom came with a hefty price. It was Wednesday morning at the hospital. You were wearing your white coat, stethoscope hanging around your neck, following your mentor for ward rounds. Just then, you heard hushed whispers echoing down the hallway. A few nurses and interns were pointing and gossiping behind your back. Look, that's him, the guy who shows up to his internship in a Maybach. Shush, keep your voice down. I heard his sugar mommy is extremely powerful. Remember that woman who harassed him? She got her arm completely broken. Your footsteps faltered slightly. Your fingers instantly tightened their grip on the clipboard. Lately, you had heard way too much of this exact same gossip. Thanks to Xingyao's flashy Maybach, picking you up and dropping you off every single day, rain or shine. Keeping a low profile was literally impossible. And just like that, you went from being the department's top honor student to the little pet canary kept by a mob boss in everyone's gossip. And honestly, there were even uglier rumors. High-priced male escort, Mu Jie. Just ignore them. Senior Shu from your group walked over awkwardly. She comforted you in a low voice. It's all just idle gossip. It'll blow over in a bit. You took a deep breath. Your expression calm. I know. Thanks, senior. You didn't want to explain. Because the more you explain, the worse it gets. Besides, to some extent, they weren't wrong. You really were being kept by that crazy woman, and you really did rely on her power. Noon. The school cafeteria. You had just gotten your food and sat down when your phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from your roommate, Zhao Mi. Little J, did you check the school forum? Someone is trying to ruin you. Look, quick. Your heart skipped a beat. You immediately put down your chopsticks and tapped on the screenshot. It was a screenshot of the campus forum. A post highlighted in red had been pushed to the very top, followed by a glaring trending tag, spilling the tea on how a certain department heartthrob slept his way to the top. Aloof top student by day, rich family's plaything by night. Pictures for proof. Your fingers turned slightly cold. You clicked into the original post. Inside were thousands of words of vicious lies, detailing how you seduced the rich and powerful, and how you use your body to climb the ladder. But the most damning part were the high-definition sneak shots below. The first photo showed Xingyao's Maybach parked right outside the dorm building. It was a shot from behind, of you bending over to get into the car. The second photo, the car window was rolled halfway down, and a hand wearing prayer beads was pinching your chin, seemingly demanding a kiss. Even though the woman's face was blurred out, her incredibly aggressive posture and the luxury car in the background were enough to set everyone's imagination on fire. The comment section was a complete war zone. Wait, isn't that Mu Jie from the traditional Chinese medicine department? Wow, you really can't judge a book by its cover. He always looks so high and mighty. Who knew he was such a freak in private? No wonder he disappeared for half a month back then. He was off serving his sugar mommy. That is so disgusting. Someone like him doesn't even deserve to study medicine. The hateful comments flooded in. Every single one felt like a poisoned dagger, viciously stabbing into you. Not too far away, Lin Shan was holding his phone, a gloating, cold smirk playing on his lips. Obviously, he was admiring his own masterpiece. You stared at the words glaring from your screen. Plaything, whore, disgusting. If it were the old you, seeing all of this, you would have panicked and completely lost your mind. Because that was the reputation you cared so much about. It was your last shred of dignity. But now, you just sat there in the noisy cafeteria, quietly looking at your phone screen. Your hands didn't even shake. Instead, you calmly closed the post. You flipped your phone face down on the table. You let out a soft breath, looked down, and slowly, methodically, took a sip of your soup. Without missing a beat, you rolled up your sleeve. That string of cold white jade Bodhi beads hidden in your sleeve caught the light, giving off a faint, icy gleam. You reached out your fingertips, gently stroking the smooth jade beads. The icy touch somehow made your heart feel steadier than ever before. Those people really thought you were just a pushover. Thought a few nasty rumors were all it would take to ruin you. But what they didn't know is that you're long past being that helpless orphan they could just push around.